Boom. And just like that, we're live. Just wanted to say,
Wow.
just wanted to say thank you for coming on this little podcast here. It really means a lot. And I've said before in past episodes that when I started this, I kind of had this list together of like kind of everybody that I wanted to have. And the main core of that list was really just like people that I either knew or people I was just like one removed from. And as I started kind of loosely using this term, but as I started kind of growing and stuff, I started looking at other people. And you and I have been pretty friendly in the chats in the past. I think we've been following each other for 2 years, probably somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah,
And then,
maybe more even.
yeah, yeah. And you went over to Dubai with Michael with Adventure Motor Skills, and he and I have been in the
I
chats
think.
quite a bit too. Stellar guy, and
Oh,
he messaged me. He's like, "Dude, I'm sending out a video about how to ride in the sand today, and you won't believe who's here." So I watched this video, and it was you, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is super awesome." And so then I just started watching videos and going back and forth, and eventually I was like, I would love to have her on. And so
oh, nice.
it was like a week or 2 weeks ago or something. I just was like, "I'm gonna reach out. Hi, my name's Ian. Would you like to be on my podcast?" And you were just like, "Yep, let's
And
do
I'm
it."
like, yay!
I was
Of course.
I was sitting on
Yeah.
my couch.
No, I'm really honored. It's super nice actually. And I know we're gonna be talking about something that I love to talk about, so it's pretty nice.
Right. Yeah, I was just sitting on my couch and you replied, like, really quick, and I was like, "Oh my god." Kinda, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna have this, like, rock star on the show," you know? It's pretty awesome.
Oh my goodness. No, but thank you. That's very sweet.
Well, I think what we
Yeah.
do is, we'll kind of move back to you as a little girl. It's kind of the cookie cutter template if you're new to the show. We like to really get a little bit better of a look at people, and this is gonna be a long
Right.
format, so we kinda have no time restrictions today. Some of my podcasts go 3
Oh, I
hours,
love it.
you
I
know?
love it.
So it's just we're just gonna talk and learn more about you, so if somebody who's a fan of you and watches your videos
Right.
and subscribes to your socials and everything, gets to know you just a little bit better and probably take those other experiences on the socials even further because now they know you more gooder. So if you want to start, just where did you grow up? Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about it.
Oh, for those who don't know me, I'm Henriette. I'm from Denmark. I was born on the west coast of Denmark, where the big beaches are, where you can ride with your motorcycle. By the way, on the beach, it's pretty damn rad. And I'm the last girl of three girls. And so a few things about me is that I've always known that I didn't want any children. From actually, I think the first time I said it to my mom, I was 11. I don't know why, but I said it out loud. Mom, I'm never going to have children. And she thought, oh, whatever. But actually, that was pretty determining for my life and my path, and my ability to have a certain level of freedom that allows for things later in life. And then I always had a desire to travel. I remember my parents, when I was a kid, talked about this Danish family that in the 70s, I was a kid in the 70s. I'm born 1970. And they talked about this couple, Danish couple, Hjalte and Nina, who were riding through South America with their motorcycles in the 70s, which was not easy at that time. And what was amazing was that they had a 1-year-old daughter. She was sitting in front of the mom on her motorcycle. And then they had a 6-year-old boy who was on the back of the dad. And so this couple was really kind of a hippie couple. And there were all these articles in the newspapers and they wrote all these books. I've read all of the books. They're amazing. And I just remember my parents talking about them, and I just picked this up, that wow, this is amazing. And then my family, myself, I think mostly driven from my dad, who he was quite adventurous in general. He always took us around Europe when we were kids, and I wouldn't say I really enjoyed it too much back then. It was, I was always fighting with my sisters, and so I didn't really enjoy traveling the same way I do as an adult. Your perspective is so narrow when you're a kid. You're just all about, I don't know, arguing about whatever hairbrush that your sister took from you or something stupid. But at least I would say that they opened the doors for something outside Denmark, and it wasn't so many people who did that at that time. So my dad bought a camper, not a camper van, but like a camper that you attach to the hook of the car.
Yeah,
I don't know
trailer.
what you call that in English.
Yeah, a camper
Thank
trailer.
you, trailer. Exactly. So he bought that, and then we toured around Spain and France and all these places. So that definitely kind of opened my eyes to there was more than just Denmark. And then already as a 14-year-old, I took off on my own first trip without my family. I went to a language school in the UK, in the south of the UK, which was quite a big thing to do as 14, maybe even 13 and a half, and I was quite immature at that age, and so that was pretty a big step for me to become independent. And then already when I was like 16, 17, I knew that I wanted to travel to Australia with backpack once I finished high school. So as you can hear, I was pretty kind of determined from an early age to get out there in the world. And I'd say maybe the Australia trip was probably really the life-changing experience that has just set the scene for my entire life, because since that I've been studying in Canada, in Vancouver, I've been working in Switzerland, I've been living in Sweden, I've been like every weekend, if I could, I would go somewhere in Europe or just always travel.
Wow.
And it was kind of my thing. But at that time, not with the motorcycle. That came later. Um, but also, I had maybe a little bit of a chaotic childhood, in the sense that there was quite a bit of drama going on between my parents. So when I was 11, they divorced, and I think my mom really showed then that you can be very strong and independent as a woman, and it was a really fantastic role model for me to see how she dealt with that. It was also very hard. It was very, very tough, of course. And, I had to learn things myself. I remember, because for a long time, we didn't really have any money, but we had horses. So I'm a horse girl. And my mom wanted us to be able to keep the horses, even if they divorced and money was really tight. She just really wanted us to stay with that, which was amazing, because I think she worked like 3 jobs to pay for it all. And but having a horse is very manual. It's very practical. It's hard work, and you fall off and you hurt yourself and you come home with a bleeding head, and I even broke my back. And it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
being a horse girl is pretty tough, and it's a good thing. At least I feel now that it was a good thing, and also not having a dad around to help me. I remember we at some point, my I would bicycle every day. That's what Danes do. We bicycle everywhere. um, and I would bicycle up to the horse, and then my tires were so thin from wear that they would puncture every day. So every day I would fix the puncture, and then the next day I would go again. And also my pants were so worn on the inside, because when you're on the horse, they wear on the inside quite a bit. And so every day when I came home, I had to stitch the pants to make them just a little bit smaller for the next day. And then the next day, the same thing would happen. So like the pants and the bicycle. And I don't think this period lasted for very long where it was that tight with money. But I just remember, or I can see now that it was quite empowering, because when you have little, you find solutions and you realize how resourceful you are yourself. And I mean, fixing a flat is easy. I always think about like, oh, if I could do it when I was 11, I can do it now on the motorcycle when I'm 54. It's like, it's not a problem. So I don't pity myself from that period. On the contrary, I really feel that it just gave me a lot of self-confidence, and maybe that was good, because when your parents divorce, you lose self-worth as a child, because you inherently think that basically you weren't worth loving to the extent that your parents could figure things out. That's how we kids, we interpret when our parents, I don't know if your parents are split up, but
They divorced when I was 6 years old, and so I don't really
yeah,
remember that feeling.
right.
I was fortunate enough to have 2 homes, 2 bedrooms, and 2 parents, essentially. So for me, I think it was a little bit
That's
different, just on that feeling
yeah,
side.
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, also I shouldn't generalize, but so I can just speak for myself. But I think that when you go through a period where you kind of question your worth
Yeah.
as a person, it's okay to compensate with self-confidence by being capable, because it helps you get through life then, and your childhood and your teenage years and stuff, to just be strong in other ways. And then you can pay a therapist a lot of money later down the line to fix all the fundamental stuff that broke you during that time. But yeah, so I think I consider myself today pretty capable. Like I really trust my own abilities to fix situations, both in terms of like practical stuff, but also mental stuff. Because I must say, traveling obviously is a practical thing when you're out there alone and you need to figure out how to do a border crossing, and your bike is broken or whatever. It's super practical every day, but it's also so goddamn mental. So so yeah, I feel quite strong in that sense, that I'm able to look at these things and work with them, and I don't freak out. I can get scared, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing to be scared. It kind of sharpens your senses, but I don't freak out. um, so that's pretty good, and there's always a solution to things. So and I think that start in life gave me some tools that I really use now, as when I'm out on
I think that
big challenging trips.
I think that's pretty cool, and it's, like, inspiring for people too, being your whole life experiences, they keep just sharpening that knife, right? So every little thing
Yeah,
just keeps you help staying on point and creating more tools for your toolbox. But I'm kinda
yeah.
curious about going back. This happens a lot, we just talked for quite a while, and it was, like, so many things, so many questions, and I'm like, "Oh, we gotta go back to that," right? So I've actually 2 things right off the bat. So, growing up on the coast, right, I would be pretty interested to know a little bit more about that and what it was like, because, we're not far from where I live here in Oregon. I'm just outside of Portland, Oregon, so if you looked at the map, I live in a wonderful area. If I go an hour to the west, I'm on the beach looking at the Pacific Ocean. If I go an hour to the
Oh,
east,
nice.
I'm up in the Cascade Mountains, right? And I have the Willamette Valley just
Wow.
right here to ride through. So, and to get to the coast, I also have to go over the coast range, right? So there's all this adventure motorcycle riding just right here.
Wow.
So it's so lucky. So
Wow.
I really, depending on time of the year, if it's summertime and the snow's gone, I'm over at the Cascades. I'm exploring over there. I'm riding over there. I'm on Eastern Oregon with the Alvord Desert and all this stuff. Wintertime, Cascade Range because they're just lower and warmer. Riding over there, and then ultimately like the coast. So I don't.
Oh wow!
People are always like, "What do you like better? Do you like the mountains? Do you like the ocean?" I'm like, "Yes, exactly."
It's not either or; it's both and.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
exactly. So growing up there next to the ocean, and then also maybe segue into like be very interested when you went to language school because I assume you went there by yourself and being
yeah,
13 and a half, 14 years old, like you were saying, that's huge. Because I mean, even
yeah,
distance wise, a whole nother country and all this stuff. So it's just, the States is big, right? So we can go the same amount of miles that you went from your house to that school, but we're just in a different state,
yeah,
same country, right?
yeah,
So a lot
yeah,
of things in Europe over here are just different on like country
yeah,
wise. But I'd just be really
yeah,
curious about those two things. Like just growing up by the ocean, that's got to be beautiful and magnificent. Had some great times there. And then like, okay, go to this language school. And what was the language school?
yeah. So the coast is unbelievable. The west coast of Denmark is really rough. The sea there is so rough, and so the beaches are very wide, very wide, and so you can go with the car or the motorcycle on them, and they're just so compact and like it's storming so crazy there. So it's really like this rough landscape, but beautiful and flat as well. So we don't have any mountains whatsoever. I think the highest point is like, I don't know, it's like it's not a mountain, it's just like it goes up a little bit and then maybe it's like 300 meters. I think so. It's really flat, but we have all this coastline, an incredible amount of coastline, because also Denmark consists of a lot of islands. So yeah, and this would be where we would go on weekends. We would take the car, jump in the car, in like this classic old Volvo, and then ride out on the beach with the car, and then have a picnic out there and swim, and just beautiful. And the kids would just be naked, because we're in Scandinavia and nakedness is not a big thing here. So it was just so bloody Danish. It's just amazing, and very free, very. It was a good place to grow up. I think I grew up in like a suburban area, where we had this little street. It was like a circle, and then houses all around, and all the houses had kids. And then because it was hard to in this circle, you couldn't drive a car fast, so it was so safe. So we would always just be on our bicycles and our roller skates, and or with our horses or anything. Like it was just always outside, active, moving, like just really active childhood. Like, I don't know, I think maybe people our age, we tend to think that our childhood is better than nowadays. I don't
Of
know if
course.
that's, maybe, I think every generation say that about their own
Right.
childhood. But I definitely think that in that sense, it was really, really a good foundation for a childhood. And then unfortunately on the inside of the family, it was a bit dramatic. Which actually I want to touch a little bit upon that as well, because I think also a lot of people do not understand how I dare to travel alone through countries like Iraq or Saudi Arabia or Angola or whatever, Mauritania, Senegal. And honestly, I think that when you go through traumatic things into your childhood and you experience stress level and cortisol levels, you i'm I'm like, what can be worse? What can be worse than seeing my parents fight? It's so somehow I think my skin is pretty thick, if that makes sense.
Total sense.
um yeah, I think so. I don't know. really, but I'm sometimes thinking that, you know, there's a reason that I'm able to just, because I won't say that I don't think it's not that I don't think it's difficult to do, like border crossing to Angola was a freaking nightmare, but I'm always like, yeah, it could be worse.
I think it's a lot of
Yeah,
a truth to what you just said, and in fact, you brought up something that I would like to bring up a little bit later, just about how it is just traveling and feeling safe, and in dicey situations or whatever. But we'll get to that
yeah,
in a little bit.
yeah. We'll get
um,
back to that. Regarding the language travel, yeah, it was a big thing to take off, but I don't know how I dared to just do that. I think it became like my thing, that because I was the youngest and I was the one who never was heard because my sisters was talking all the time. And I think I just maybe also just wanted to get out of there. I just wanted to have some space for me. So, and it was a cool thing to do. I think but it's interesting that that became it. You know, I actually don't know where that started, but it was really cool to get away, to be on my own 2 feet, and yeah, it gave. I think I maybe simply because I have this really need for freedom. That is probably my most significant value for me. My whole life, it's freedom, the ability to decide for myself, the financial freedom, whatever, just to be able to do exactly what I want to do. That has always been super important for me.
I think that's
So probably that's what made me take off at that time. I see it, you know, like my sisters are both way more family oriented people. And they, especially my older sister, she loves having people around all the time. And I'm like, oh, I don't want people all around all the time. I want to be alone. And so, yeah, I think I just have that need to be myself a lot of the time.
yeah.
So maybe that's
I,
the first time it really came out.
I think a lot of us in this little moto community, we all have, and some have it worse than others, but I just call it the wanderlust. I just want to wander around and just explore new
Yeah,
places. I want to travel. I want to do this. I want to see whatever, right? And I just want to go.
yeah,
And doing it by myself is actually um, the most appealing as well, because in my professional life, I'm a truck driver, right? So they do
right?
things when you do like long haul stuff. We call it over the road, and there's what's called solo driving just by yourself, and there's team driving where you have somebody else and you guys are switching back and forth. And I always joke around, I can never be a team driver because I don't like people to be around that much all the time in my
Yeah,
space, right?
exactly.
So I just like going by myself, my schedule, my thing, stop when I want to stop, look what I want to look at, go where I want to go, and just have that. So I think that part of my life really um kind of fulfilled that wanderlust too, right? So it's just like I get to go from Oregon to Florida, and now I'm over on the East Coast, and now I'm in like Baltimore and Washington D.C., and now I'm back in like the Midwest, and now I'm over here. So it's always constantly bouncing around, and I'm just like, I like it. But then,
Yeah,
things change, and now I just
sounds
work
amazing.
local, But yeah,
Yeah.
it is in that wanderlust because there'd be times like, for example, I would be over in like Baltimore, and I would just jump a train and go to DC for the day, and literally just wander
Oh,
around, walk around like 7, 8 miles. Just I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. I want to
amazing.
see that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I think
Yeah. And I think also this need for independence also taps into my personalities, because I'm probably what you would call an introvert extrovert, which means that I really need my alone time. That's actually where I get my energy, um, or where I recharge. That's when I'm alone. And then I love being around people. I love it, but not too long. then I get exhausted. So I really need to have those breaks from people. And for that, actually, the motorcycling is perfect. You know, when you go somewhere with a group of people and it's so much fun, and then you put on your helmet and you're by yourself.
Right.
It's awesome. If you have to sit in a bus or something, then you have to interact all the time, and then that's just too much for me.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. 100%. There's something
Yeah,
calming about the helmet, you know? I think a lot
exactly.
of us, we do our deepest thoughts in that helmet, just rolling by ourselves, just like, well, I just figured something out really important in life, you know?
Yes.
Or the wind therapy, I truly feel is a very real thing too. Just I just gotta go. When you put the helmet on, you get out in the wind, you're on gravel or whatever. For me, it's being in the woods, gravel travel, flying down some road and just being like, "Oh, I just figured something out. That's great. Okay, let's go."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think when I did the Alaska to Argentina trip, so maybe I can just maybe I should go back to when did I start like combining traveling and motorcycling?
yeah, I'd really love to know
But I
when you fell in love with bikes and motorcycles, when you kinda found all that.
yeah. So I think I was 23 and I had just gotten my driver's license, and I thought, ah, why not get it for the motorcycle as well? So it was just a little bit of what do you say, like just a quick idea.
Yeah, like a random
And
thought.
so I did that. I don't really think I told my mom about that. And then I had a friend who was restoring old military bikes, Danish military bikes, these Yamaha DT 250 MX, super cool bike from 1970. And I thought it was so cool. It was so ugly, but in such a cool way. And so I said, you know, I want to buy one. And so he fixed one up for me, and I bought it, and I didn't tell my mom. And I remember she came in and saw it, and she just turned around and left and didn't talk to me for a week.
Oh, no.
She was so mad, and but I didn't really care, and so I started riding. But I didn't really have any friends who were riding motorcycles at that time, so it was just something I did alone. Um, yeah, I really didn't know anybody. So it after a period of a few years or something, I kind of a little bit it became a little bit impractical. And then I moved to Copenhagen, and in Copenhagen it was really a hassle because I can't park it anywhere. And then I kept getting parking fines, and it was just so much easier with the bike. You know, Copenhagen is a bicycle city, so it was kind of just a little bit in the way. And I think the fact that I didn't have any friends who were riding motorcycles, and I didn't know at that time that there are clubs or associations or just groups of people who go ride together. I never heard of that, so I didn't really look it up either. So then I went traveling, and I went studied in Canada, and then moved to Sweden afterwards. So it kind of went a little bit in the background. Um, but I kept this old bike. It was all the time in my basement. And once in a while I would go down and fire it up, and every time it would just start. And that was it was unbelievable. It was just standing there with like 10-year-old oil and petrol, and it would just start every time.
That's awesome.
And yeah, that was so awesome. Uh, and then it wasn't until I moved home from Sweden. I was in my late 30s, like I think maybe 37, 36, 37. And then I met Lars, um, my former boyfriend, and he told me on the first date that he had always dreamt of riding a motorcycle. And I was like, what are you waiting for? And it was just like an honest question. What are you waiting for? And he was like, I actually don't know. And then a month later, he had his driver's license and a motorcycle. And then we started riding together on his bike. He bought a super nice bike. And then actually what happened, we were in Scotland over the winter and saw this series, The Long Way Round.
Yep.
With Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman. I'm sure you know it.
Yep.
And we loved it. We thought it was so amazing. And I think we watched it again when we came home, and then we watched it one more time, and we were laughing with them and crying with them, and we just thought it was so cool. And then at some point, I think I was a little bit like, why are we like watching other people's adventure? And at that time, we were together, and we'd been together for a while. We had both really good jobs and really good income, but because we didn't have a family, we also were working a lot, like late hours, and it was very much career. And I think I kind of hit the hamster wheel at that point. So I said to him, "Hey, what do you think? Why don't we go on something similar, some crazy big adventure like this?" And then he really surprised me because he was not very impulsive. He was definitely very steady, like, this guy who would just always be there for you, like super cool guy. But I was kind of the bunny, the one who always like, oh, let's do this, and always super energetic. And so when I said this, do you want to do something like this? He just like, yes, like right away. There was no doubt in his mind. And I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna do that then. And then we started really planning, and we bought this world map. You can see the corner of it here on my wall. So we bought that world map, and we bought a BMW F650 GS for me, and he bought an Africa Twin. And then we started. We went on like dirt road trips, and we went to Spain to do some off-road there, and we learned how to fix a flat and change the tire ourselves by hand, and started. And it was such a cool period. It was actually a long period. I think it took us 1.5 years before we took off, and it took us a long time to even decide where we would want to go. But I really enjoyed that period because you kind of just really zoom into, this is the one thing that I really want to do. And so we had this rule that every time we bought something, first of all, it had to be relevant for the adventure. Second, we had to get rid of another thing. So we just started selling stuff, not really because we needed at that time so much to sell stuff to finance it, because we were making good money at that time. But we just wanted to declutter and just kind of focus our lives more towards what we really wanted to do. And that I love. That's why I always love the planning period, because I feel I just got super focused. And then we were looking at the map, and we were like, where should we go? Should it be like Mongolia? I think we both really loved the thought of going to Mongolia. We both loved the thought of Australia, and Africa was never on the table. That was just like, no, too scary. And then eventually we just like drew a line from the top of Alaska to the tip of Argentina, which is very easy to do, right? You just take a pen and you make a line, but it's also really freaking hard because it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then the next very hard thing is to pick a date, to say we're going to do it on this date. And we both said that we're both going to ask our jobs for a leave of absence, but we also agreed that if they didn't give it to us, we would quit our jobs. So we were really determined that this was going to happen. But we managed, both of us, to get a leave of absence of 8 months, which would be enough for that trip, even if I felt it was a little bit fast. And then, we finally, after 1.5 years of planning and a lot of riding, we then bought 2 bikes in Alaska on Craigslist. We bought a Kawasaki KLR 650 for Lars for $2,500, and it had like 1,000 kilometers on it.
Oh, wow.
And then, it was amazing.
Brand
And
new.
then we bought a brand new. We bought a Suzuki DR 650 for me, and I paid $2,000 for that, and it had like the same, like maybe 1,500 kilometers on it. So really both brand new. And then we had the sellers, we had them take the bikes to a dealer in Fairbanks, Alaska, and the dealer would then look at it, and then we sent the money to the dealer. And it was really funny because first when we contacted the dealer, they were like, this for sure is a scam. Because we're like, this email, hey, we are this couple from Denmark. We would like to buy some bikes in Alaska. We will send you the money. We just need your bank account and your blah, blah, blah. So they're like, oh, yeah, and your dad is a king in Nigeria or whatever. But after a while, they realized that we were serious. And then they accepted and took the money, and then they paid the sellers, the private sellers, and then the bikes were standing there ready for us when we arrived. Wow. So that was pretty cool.
That is pretty fantastic. Now, before we get on, maybe a little bit more about this trip, I'm always fascinated about the planning phase, right? Because it's so hyper focused on, I'm going to start in place A and I want to go to B. But you have this amazing journey in between.
Yeah.
And so just knowing, that trip from Alaska down to Argentina, there's so many variables that you can do. Like,
Oh,
do you get into Mexico
yeah.
and stay on the west or the east? And do you want to go interior? There's
Yeah.
just so much about, and then the Darien Gap, we'll get to that. But it's just, I'm always very fascinated because, like, I have a friend of mine, Giant Loop, who I think you know a little bit about. They do their annual
Oh,
ride
yeah.
here in Oregon. And, it's coming up here pretty, I don't know, like 5-6 weeks or something.
I have so much FOMO over missing out on that one.
Oh, yeah, I bet. And, it's just, he's coming down and he's like, "Hey, let's do a route. Let's do this cool route." And I'm always the planner of the route when Critter comes down. So I'm like, I'm always trying to like one up from last year, right? So we did this route and then we did this route and this route. So I'm trying to make it more and more and more epic, right? So knowing the area,
Wow.
it's easy for me to do that. But when you're planning something on the other side of the globe, what is that planning process like? Do you just kind of look at a map and like, it looks fun, let's try that? Or is it more recon, maybe vlogs with other riders and things like that?
Yes, a lot of vlogs. At that time, it was very much ADV Rider. That was the forum for this type of information. And then, so we tried not to really make a route, but more have things that we really wanted. And we had, we also decided that we really wanted to ride along the Rocky Mountains rather than the coast, because we both liked the thought of the mountains. So we wanted to see Yellowstone, and we wanted to see as many national parks in the US as possible on the way down. So Utah, of course, Moab, and all the amazing national parks there. Then we really wanted to see Machu Picchu
Yes.
in Peru. And the other thing was that we had a friend in Denmark who participated in the Dakar rally that was in South America at that time. and he was participating on a bike, on a motorbike. And we just really wanted to make it to Copiapó in Chile for the rest day to visit him, because he had promised us that he had super good coffee with his support team if we made it there.
I love it.
So that was for especially for Lars, that was like the big thing, to time it to actually make it there. But other than that, we didn't really have these so many things. But as you go along, you all the time talk to people. So, for example, in the US, people would tell us that, oh, when you get to Mexico, you have to go to Copper Canyon. It's amazing. And so then that became the destination in Mexico. So I'd say that the route kind of develops as you go and you meet people and they say, they give you advice.
I love that.
Another thing you need to plan for. Sorry?
I love that because that is kind of
Yeah.
my style of writing too. I've talked before, like I write a lot with my dad, and so my dad is very planned. Like I always joke around, like he plans the pee breaks. Like this is where and it's just like very like where we're going. And I'm more like fly
Oh,
down a
wow.
road and come up to an intersection and be like, left. No real thought to it. But 2 thoughts
Nice.
of it as I love the adventure and the unknowing of where we're going and just writing my style.
Yeah.
But then with him, he's like, "We gotta stop here," and he's like a history book, and he's like, "And this happened here, and then
Oh,
this, and then if you look over there," and you're just like, "Oh, I'm glad we stopped. This is really cool. I would have just went
that's
70
amazing
miles an
too.
hour." Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
the 2 different styles, but I really like kind of that
Yes.
free form, and we're gonna go here, but from A to B is a little bit loose, if you will, on how to get there. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And so obviously, if you are on a weekend trip or even like a 3-week trip, it is nice to have a little bit of a plan, I think, as well. But when you are on such a big trip, you you have to be careful though, because you quickly use more time than you can, and then you're not able to make it all the way to the destination. But other than that, it's you just have a little bit more time in general, so you can do the detour. You can do, and it allows also to, when you don't have the plan, to accept invitations from locals. And I quickly realized that that was probably my main attraction, was meeting locals and being invited home to stay with private people. That's really the memories. Standing on whatever beautiful ridge and, oh, it's so nice, and taking a photo, that's all amazing. That's cool. I love it. I love camping somewhere in nature. That's also another main attraction for me. But really, it's being invited by completely normal people out of a in a non-touristy situation. That's really what counts, and that extreme flexibility allows for that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that I just love hearing that kind of stuff because I'm kind of I prefer to camp and being invited into people's homes, like you're saying. And one of the things also that we'll probably talk more about here in a little while is, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world. Holy, having a hard time talking all of a sudden. But we kind of have the perception of like the Middle East, right? And it's all Taliban and it's all bad, right? When Afghanistan and all this, and that's just kind of how everything is kind of like presented, right? Because it's just the news or whatever. And I love watching, you know, just videos, of people who are being invited into homes and stuff. And you're like, see, this is how humanity really is. All that other crap that's going on and all the bad stuff, that's such a small percentage of what's really out there. And it's so breath of fresh air. It's inspiring. And I love seeing that, especially in the stand countries where everybody's like, it's just terrible over there. And you're like, is it though? Because I
Yeah.
just saw this and look at all this, right? So,
Yeah. Okay, now you mentioned Taliban, and as a woman, I'm very aware of the completely horrendous situation for the women in Afghanistan. So now that's said, I haven't traveled there, so we can just put that aside. But that's serious suppression, so that's a problem. But the rest of the Middle East is unbelievably hospitable, and also Afghanistan is also the normal, like just average people there are incredibly hospitable, and it has to do with it's just kind of in their DNA. It's also in the religion that in order to be a good Muslim, you have to invite strangers or travelers or whatever into your home, and you cannot ask them when they leave before after 3 days. That's the earliest you can ask them when they're gonna leave. So, and it's not like I have to invite them now because of this rule. It's just what they do. They can't help themselves. They also just come up and hug you, and they are like, "Oh, are you here alone? No, 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 come to my home." They're such caring people. So it's really just in their culture. It's unbelievable,
Beautiful.
really unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, maybe we'll
We
get
can learn a lot from that. I mean, my culture here in Denmark, we are nice people for sure, but we have a few things to learn from the Arabic world.
same here, obviously. So, all right, back to the other side of the world. We're doing the Alaska to Argentina, right? So we kind of have the planning
Yeah.
down. You have the bike spot, which I think is really cool. What a unique way to be like, hey, we're gonna buy your bikes, but let's get them checked out at the shop first, and then we'll exchange money that way. That's actually a brilliant
Yeah.
idea, and I do laugh because we do get a lot of emails and phone calls over here of like, hello, we are a king. I am going to send you money. Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So that's
Yep.
hilarious. So you have the bikes over there now. How'd you guys start planning for the gear? And did you how did you set the bikes up and stuff? Were you part of Giant Loop yet, or just
We
pre-GL?
we made all the we made all the mistakes, like every traveler start out with way too much, and we already had that process at home because we did a lot of trips, shorter and longer trips, and just packed our bikes here at home to see, what you need. But then still, when you leave, you just bring way, way, way too much. And then you spend the next 8 months trying to get rid of this t-shirt and this because you have 10 t-shirts with you. It's just, yeah, packing is difficult. It really, really is. I feel I've cracked the code now, but yeah, we definitely made the mistake. And my boyfriend he was really tall. He's like 2 meters tall, and he seriously didn't care how much gear was on his bike. It was just super loaded, and he was like, "Oh, that's not a problem for me." He never felt it was too heavy or anything, so he just kept adding on. But I really learned on that first adventure, I learned that uh, heavy is horrible. It's just horrible for me. I'm so small, I don't know what that is in inches, but I'm like 1 meter and 56 centimeters. That's like that's 6 centimeters more than a dwarf.
Oh,
So I'm pretty tiny. So yeah, I really struggle with the weight. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I've learned the hard way.
right. Yeah, I'm guilty as charged too because I'm like, I will just throw
Yeah,
everything in there. Just
yeah.
take it. But yeah. And then I do the same thing too. I'm like, why do I have 75 pairs of underwear in here? I don't need this. It's just like, what?
And it's so funny because if I go on a weekend trip in Denmark, I will bring way more than I do when I do 6 months in whatever, because then I'm like totally focused. And then also I get this rhythm of every day when I do the shower, I wash my underwear and then this and then this. But when I'm on shorter trips, I never get to that rhythm. So yeah, it's different.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So did you guys, when you went to the dealership there in Fairbanks, they're like, "Oh, you guys are real. You are here now.
A
Here's your
little bit,
bike."
yeah, yeah. Exactly. And then I think they still were kind of, when we said, yeah, we're going to ride all the way to Argentina. And they still like, where is that? Like, no, Argentina, the country, like the bottom of South America. And they were like, oh, you mean like the next state? Or they
Like,
just
no,
never really,
dude.
I don't think they ever really understood the magnitude of it.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
but then But then we started then by riding north up to Prudhoe Bay, which is
Mhm.
the kind of the top of Alaska, at the end of the Dalton Highway, which was it was a cool way to start, because we kind of got that little test run, you can say, up there and back again, to just we did a few adjustments on the bikes after that. I honestly don't remember what we did, but I think maybe did I lower mine? Maybe, I'm not sure, but that was pretty cool. And then then we took off. But I want to go back to the planning again, because it's also, you got to think of like visas. For the US, it was a challenge because we needed time to both go up to Prudhoe Bay, come back down, cross Canada, and then do the whole of the of the United States down to Mexico. So we needed maximum time. And even if you like, getting a visa for the US is not easy. You have to go to the embassy and you send all these things, these documentations, and you have to present like your money, your financial situation, that you have an apartment or you own property, your work contract, blah, 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 all these things. And then we got the visa. But you also know that when you get to the States, it's up to the immigration officer to decide if he trusts that you can afford your full stay. And we really desperately needed maximum time. So we had printed all this, all the papers from the bank and our property, and a statement from our work that we had work to come back to, because also we didn't have a return ticket from the States, and that's the second problem. So that might mean that he would be like, nah, I don't trust that you're not going to stay and work here, so I'm just going to give you 2 weeks or something like that. But then we came there with this huge pile of papers on the one arm, and then our helmets in the other hand. And then the immigration officer, when he saw us, he went like, "Oh, bikers, welcome!" And then he just started talking. He was a biker as well, and blah 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 blah, all these things. And before we knew it, he had just stamped all our visa, and we got the maximum time. So it was like,
Outstanding.
oh,
That is
yeah.
fabulous.
And it was Anchorage, Alaska. It was so friendly, it was amazing. I think it would have been different if it would have been like, probably like Boston airport or something, a big airport.
Yeah, it could be for sure. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I'm so happy that happened for you guys too, because
yeah,
having
that was
access to
nice.
down here would be awesome.
But then in terms of um like traveling with the vehicle, that was the next thing. We needed to figure out how to get insurance for the motorcycles in America. And then you need to import your bike through all these countries, especially all the border crossings in Central America. But what makes it a little bit easy traveling in America is that they all use temporary import permits. So you don't need I don't know if you know the term carnet de passage, which is like a customs document, a CDP, that you need for several African countries and Asian countries. But America is a little bit easier in that sense. So that's pretty cool. But all that you need to investigate. You need to sit down and make a freaking Excel sheet with every country and look up, what are the rules here? Where can we cross? Which are the borders? And then, yeah, the Darien Gap. We'll get to that, but that's also a consideration. Like, how are we going to do this?
Mhm.
So yeah, there is still that level of planning, like, because it's it's also like you kind of gotta know before you leave from home your kind of minimum paperwork that is required. It's really stupid to get there and really realize that, oh shit, we should have had a carnet de passage.
Yeah.
Oh, bummer. Um, So there is kind of a minimum of preparation, I think.
Those are all really good
Yeah.
things, and especially, like, I think a lot of people that, are maybe gonna start doing this and hearing these terms and what you really need is excellent because I think we get a little bit spoiled here in the States because, like I said, again, like my
Oh,
buddy, Critter Moto, just a little plug for him, um, he lives up in Vancouver Island, right, in Canada, so, when I go up there and see him, I all I have to do is just call my insurance company and say, "Hey, I'm gonna go up to Canada for a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever," and I just add this little extra
amazing.
traveler's insurance, right? And that also includes, like, if I eat crap somewhere and break a leg, it helps pay my medical costs too. So that's all I do. I go up there, I hit the border cross, and they're
That's
like, "Why are you
amazing.
coming in
Yeah,
here?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna go visit my buddy." And okay, and then come
that's
back.
so
It's
cool.
it's just it's really easy, but
Yeah,
I haven't done
you
the
are
traveling yet.
spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And in the EU, we are also very spoiled because it's the same thing. We just cross the border and we don't think about it. So a lot of people will never travel outside the EU. And then when I tell them that, well, you need to deal with customs, they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean importing something? I'm like, you're bringing an expensive product, a vehicle into that country. You can't just do that unless you are in a customs union. And they're like, but because especially when you were born in a place where these things are already in place, you never knew the change from before when there weren't any customs, when there was not a customs union in the EU. So you don't know what it meant back then to cross borders with a vehicle. But yeah, that's a big thing actually, and it can make it super difficult to travel in some continents.
yeah, I can only imagine the difficulties of, like, just not knowing and not doing your due
Yeah,
diligence and just like, "I'm gonna go here," and you're like, "Oh, wait, crap. We're screwed."
yeah,
You know?
exactly. Oh, what do you mean? I need papers? Okay.
Yeah, "What's a passport?" Yeah, no.
And then you get these quite sweet, like new travelers who are like, oh, we crossed these borders and the officers were so rude and we were, refused entry and this is so bad. And then all of us, we're like, ah,
Yeah, uh-huh.
maybe you should have just done a little research before you went. But,
Right.
yeah, then we can sit and be like these old assholes who are like, oh, yeah, yeah, we know better.
Oh, I love it. So, okay, rewinding back. So, up to Prudhoe Bay, top of Alaska, right on the Arctic Ocean, and you were saying it was really good, and in my mind, I'm thinking the same thing too, because you leave Fairbanks, you go to Prudhoe Bay, and you have up and back, you have this, "Oh, I gotta get this, or I gotta get that," and you come back to, quote, unquote, "civilization," where there's shops and mechanics, and we can get things,
Exactly.
right? So,
Yeah,
I think that's a really good, like, brilliant way for you guys to start, right? Just, okay,
yeah.
we're all wrong or we're good, right? And so you can get everything fixed. So Prudhoe Bay, and then you guys had to, if I remember right, Prudhoe Bay is, you have to stay in a hotel. They don't allow you to camp. There's polar bears around, so you can't camp.
We did camp actually. We didn't want to pay for the hotel because it was so expensive. So we just actually went out of town and pitched the tent, and then afterwards realized that maybe that was not so smart. But we had no visitors during the night, so we were okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've heard some bear stories from up there, but I don't know how many are true and how many are just, biker legend, right? So,
I think right in Prudhoe Bay, it's not too bad. I mean, there are some islands further up where there's a lot of bears, but still, I try always to think of it this way. I'm pretty, and I cannot back this up with facts, but then I know facts is not a thing at the moment, so no, I'm joking. But I think the risk on the motorcycle exceeds any other risk. So traffic is dangerous in general, even in a car, but on a motorcycle, statistically, it's quite dangerous. So I always think that, if you're willing to sit on a bike 8 hours every day, that's a huge risk that you're taking. Then the risk of being eaten by a polar bear is like so far down compared to that
Right.
I try not to worry too much about it.
Great
But
way to
I
look at
but
it.
I didn't think that back then. That's something I've learned down, particularly on that trip, because I was worrying about everything.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was so worried all the time, and I really realized after a period that, damn, none of these things that I worry about are happening. Other things are happening, but just not the things that I'm worried about. So maybe I'm just really ruining the experience for myself and just wasting all this energy being freaking worried all the time. And it's a woman's thing as well. I mean, come on, we worry about everything, and I'm sure that's why we live way longer than you guys. But we, it really can just ruin you that you all the time worry about something that's never gonna fucking happen. Just stop. So yeah, I try to live by this rule, but I'm still a woman. What can I do?
I didn't know you guys worried a lot about things. This is new to me.
Even not having children, moms, they worry all the time. But
Yeah.
even me, not having kids, I still fucking worry. So yeah,
Well, it is. Like you said, it's part of the DNA, I guess. So absolutely
I
crazy.
think so.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
once you guys start heading down, heading south, what are some of the highlights coming through?
I really love the US, and Canada. Canada, obviously. I mean, you've been there. It's freaking unbelievable. But the animals, I was really surprised by how many animals we saw all the way coming down. And obviously, since we were riding along the Rocky Mountains all the way, and then we had a detour into Yellowstone, uh, then it was in areas where there are a lot of national forests and national parks and stuff. So we just saw bears and all kinds of deer and mountain goats and uh, whatnot. Just unbelievable animals everywhere. Buffalo. Yeah, I was really really impressed by that. How much space and how much nature and just all the animals, and so the camping in North America was just unbelievable.
Right.
I really enjoyed that.
I love
Yeah,
that too.
you're very lucky.
A lot of people, I think when they think of the States, they think of like, New York City, LA, whatever, but they forget we have this
Yeah,
massive amount of, especially the Midwest to the West, Rocky Mountains, and even into Oregon, for example. It's just, there's
yeah.
nothing.
Oh yeah,
You find yourself literally 100 miles away from
amazing.
anything. It's
Yeah,
stunning.
it is so stunning. I mean, Colorado. Oh my goodness! And so we were riding some of the, I think it's called Continental Divide
Yep.
trails
Yep.
there, and it was just unbelievable. Obviously, the what is it called? The road between Jasper and Banff in Canada.
Oh, the Glacier
Um,
Parkway.
I,
Isn't that the Glacier Parkway?
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so stunning. So the landscapes were amazing. It felt very free there, and you could see also the people that we met. In general, I feel Americans or North Americans are just so friendly. Like, and I know the world right now is maybe having a little bit of a different view on what's happening over there. But when you meet people in the US, they are always just so nice, like everywhere. So the hospitality was amazing, and we really really loved it. And in fact, a little spoiler alert: I'm no longer together with Lars, with whom I did that trip. He is now married and lives. He's married to an American lady and lives in San Francisco, and he
Wow.
loves it there.
That's pretty
So
cool.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely cool.
and he's very jealous of me, who's now a full time adventurer.
Well, yeah, that's something to be jealous of for sure. That's
Yeah,
that's pretty rad. So coming through, I'm gonna touch on this real quick. This is not a political show or anything, but the political climate here in the States right now, right? We have all this tariff talk, we have all this crap going on. And I think the news does a really good job of showing the extremes on both parties. So, and again, it goes back to kind of our Middle East talk. So you have what you see on TV of protests and blowing up Tesla dealers or fireballs or whatever. And then you have the other side that are just as wacky. Those are such a small percentage of the population, that the
Yeah,
rest of
exactly.
us are just like, whatever. Hey, how you doing? Right? It's normal. It's normal. Nothing has changed
Exactly.
when I wake up
Yeah,
in the mornings, It's just
yeah,
that's what it is. Okay, moving on. That's my political statement.
yeah, yeah. But it is really the truth, and unfortunately, racism is a thing in every single country.
Yeah.
Every single country. So you have Moroccans who are racist towards the Senegalese, and you have the Ethiopians who feel superior because they are lighter skinned than the Kenyans. You have the Saudi Arabians who are racist towards the black workers there. It's just every single country. So it's apparently just a human thing. And it's really sad because we are just the fucking same. We are just the same. We just
100%.
want to send our kids to school. We want a fairly comfortable life. We like a little bit of freedom to make decisions for ourselves. We like to have a pretty decent job where we get a fair salary. That's it. That's actually all we want. We want to be able to take care of our parents and our partners, and that's it. And it's the same. It doesn't matter if you're left or right. That's pretty much what we want from life.
Just be a
And it's
good
it's
person.
just it's sad that we can't see that we agree on 95% or 98 probably,
Mhm.
and then the rest it's just ah get over
I
ourselves.
know it's chaos
I don't
over
know.
stupidity sometimes, you know? I
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Try not to get involved. I get on Facebook every once in a while, and it's all of a sudden all this negativity on there, and I'm like, we're gonna delete you. We're gonna unfriend
yeah,
you. I'm gonna put you on pause for 30 days. I just wanted to be
yeah.
happy, right? So,
Exactly. And but I mean, I understand also that at certain times we have to stand up
yeah.
for our
Mhm.
rights. That's important. And yeah, that's very important. But the thing is, we don't stand up for our rights on Facebook or X or Instagram. We change absolutely nothing by writing a comment, disagreeing or agreeing with somebody, or watching a political reel on Instagram. We change absolutely zero. The only thing that changes something is that we leave the door and we get organized and we go out there. And a demonstration is great, but it's nothing if we're not organizing afterwards. So that's why I try also not to follow these things, because it only distorts my view of the world and make me think that the world is worse than it is. It doesn't change anything.
Mhm.
So I try to stay away from it as well. And if I get too much into these things, I get scared of traveling. So I don't, and I've had too many experiences like being warned about Mexico. That's the one thing I didn't like about the US, was that everybody we met were like, "Oh, you're going to Mexico?
Right.
Are you bringing a gun?" And there's like, a gun? What would I do with a gun? I wouldn't even know how to hold it. I'm Danish. So, and then you get there and it's just super nice. And then everybody was warning us against Colombia. And it's always people who never went there who warn you. And fortunately, we met a Danish lady who had been riding solo through all of Americas. And she said, "Oh, Colombia is the one country you cannot miss. It's the best country." And so we listened to her advice. She'd been there, and she was right. It was my favorite country on that trip. So yeah, and you also have to remember that traveling and living is two different things. If you live in Cape Town in South Africa, there are some risks that you need to kind of mitigate or deal with. When you travel there, you're not really exposed to the same things. So okay, you can get your purse stolen. or something like that. But that's an inconvenience. That's not really danger. And that's another thing that I really try to distinguish is whether, is this going to be very inconvenient for me or is it dangerous? So inconvenience, I get insurance. I deal with it. I save money different places on the bike. I never keep all my credit cards in one place. I make fake copies of my driver license, so I never give out my real driver's license. I have all these strategies, and the things I'm scared of or should be scared of is being attacked, like personally, something that's dangerous to me, traffic, stuff like that. And that I deal with in other ways. So when people are like, oh, you're going to Mozambique, oh my God, so dangerous. And I'm like, what do you mean? What was your experience in Mozambique exactly, since you say that? Oh, we were walking home from the club at 2 a.m. in the street and we got mugged. And I'm like, yeah, okay, people get mugged in Copenhagen. That's not nice, I don't want to get mugged for sure, but it's very inconvenient. It's just not, well, unless it's with a knife or a gun. It's of course dangerous. That's a different thing. I don't want to downplay that. But do you know what I mean?
Well, 100% do.
That's a big difference between danger and inconveniences.
Right. It's the same thing that
if you don't,
that I've heard when people are like,
if you don't want to, sorry, go ahead.
I would say it's kind of the same thing. I've heard, people from Europe and saying, "Oh, you can't travel to the United States. It's too dangerous right now and stuff." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about? It's nothing's really changed. It's all like you're saying. There's certain areas that are bad. Just stay away from them. The rest is great.
Yeah,
exactly. Same thing.
And exactly, unless you are in right now full blown war, and you are in the war zone. I mean, you can ride through Ukraine. You just ride through the western part. It's beautiful. I did that not long ago. So usually the dangerous places, it's not everywhere.
Right.
Remember some friends of mine, they were also traveling, and they traveled to Russia when the government building was attacked and burned down. And they were there in the capital, and they were just 2 streets away, and they didn't notice anything was happening.
Oh.
So it's like,
wow.
You gotta be so kind of unlucky to be right there where the shit hits the fan and everything's just hell.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So.
But I also think that there's a difference between being adventurous and suicidal and stupid. And so, like right now, I wouldn't travel to Sudan even if I could. I don't think I could get a visa, but I also wouldn't. I wouldn't travel to northern Mali right now. So there are some places where you also gotta just say, okay, because there's another thing, which is, if I was taken a hostage in Mali right now, where would that leave my family? Like, that would put them in a super bad situation to maybe, sell their house or whatever to finance a ransom for me or something. And even if I would say, no, don't do that. I chose to go there. I chose to travel there. I mean, are they just going to sit there and not do nothing? They couldn't do that. So I had these discussions because I'm planning now to go to ride next year through Algeria, down to to Algeria, which is Africa's biggest country, and then cross into Mauritania on a little border there that opened, I think, last year. And that is like serious Central Sahara. And there, there could be some level of risk. I mean, definitely, if I look at the foreign ministry website for Denmark, they're like, do not travel there. But I tend not to read that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I get that.
Right. Where were we? We were talking about America.
We just went off on a tangent. That's perfect. That's what I love about these conversations, just being organic. We just go where
That's
they
cool.
go. But yeah, back
Yeah.
to stateside here. Well, I guess I just coming through. So you're kind of in the States. You're going through Colorado, well, Utah, Colorado, and all of that, riding the Continental Divide. Which, if you don't know, that big thing of it is the Continental Divide is the water go west or east, right? So
Yes,
that's kind of
it's
the
amazing.
big thing of it there. But what about in the southern part? Did you end up going through like New Mexico or Arizona and heading into Mexico, or did
Yeah.
you go down to Texas and go to
Uh,
Big Bend?
uh, no, Arizona,
Yeah, beautiful.
and yeah, it was so nice. And unfortunately, at that time, we were not doing well together. So what happens when you are on a trip like this and you're together 24/7? You really start to get on each other's nerves.
What?
And yeah, right, surprise.
Yeah.
And so in Utah, we had an accident. It was we were camping in the mountains, and in the night it was snowing, and then all the deer came down from the mountain. So the next morning there were just deer everywhere, and so we were riding really slow, but still a deer ran out in front of me, and I just hit the brakes, and then Lars, he hit me, and we hurt ourselves a little bit, and the bikes were damaged, and so we had to go back to Moab. It was just south of Moab, and we stayed there for 3 weeks, waiting for parts and having the bike fixed. And also Lars had hurt his shoulder, so he needed to just have some rest and some painkillers and stuff. And that period wasn't good for us. Like we didn't deal with that in a very good way, unfortunately. And so that kind of ruined it for us. And that whole thing culminated when we got to Arizona, and we broke up, simply. And it was really like, okay, if you ride 500 kilometers that way now, I'm going to ride 500 kilometers that way because I cannot stand looking at you right now. And so that sucked. And we then, after like one day, we found each other on Hotmail, because that was, mail back then. There was no Messenger or anything. It was in 2011.
Okay.
And we were both like super worried for each other, like, where are you? Are you okay? And then we got together again in Arizona and talked it out, and we were like both pretty eager to do this adventure. And we didn't feel like quitting or going in a different direction. And then we were like, okay, maybe can we do this as friends instead of a couple? And we were like, yeah, let's try that. And then we went and bought some more spare parts and tools, so that we had two full sets of tools, uh, that would allow us to later split up if we couldn't manage. And then a few days after, we crossed into Mexico, and then it was like, you're not going anywhere. You're staying here close to me, because it was a little bit scary. So we were like, oh shit, don't leave me. Uh, so we managed actually to make it work all the way to Buenos Aires, and finished, and then came home as two singles, which was pretty rough. Uh, it was, we had to come home and sell our apartment and everything, and so that, but it was still really amazing that we managed to say, like, no, we actually like each other as friends. Let's do this adventure together. And it was super cool. Actually, I'm so grateful that we managed to do that. And it's such a cool memory to have together with him. And today he's a very good friend still. So yeah, I really appreciate that we managed to do that.
That's pretty stellar. You
Mm.
guys were able to manage and kind of quote unquote be adults
Yeah,
about it, you know.
I think so too.
So
Yeah, I'm a little bit proud of it. It wasn't always easy, but you know, relationships are never easy. It is what it is.
yeah, no kidding. So what made you a little nervous in Mexico, right? When you get in there, you're like, oh, this is a little scary.
I think for me it was just like it was such a difference from the US. The US was so clean and orderly, and now we were in this place. It was just garbage everywhere. We didn't
Mhm.
understand a word anyone was saying, and it just felt like, oh my God, I don't know this world. Where the US is similar to my world, and this was just different and exciting as well, and very friendly. But I think we were a little bit spooked, and we were spooked by the many intense warnings that we had. So we were probably also seeing a little bit ghosts, I think.
Oh, I see what you're
But
saying. Okay, yeah. I wasn't sure if you're like looking on
yeah,
an app and they're like, "Hey, don't go here," or if it was just everybody saying, "Don't do this." But the fact that you just said you were seeing ghosts, not only was that a cool term, but
yeah,
I totally understand that what you're saying.
I I think that nobody were never very concrete with like, oh, avoid this area. And that's something I really have learned now, that if somebody warns me about something, I'm going to ask them exactly, what do you think I should do differently? Give me 1 second. I need to turn off my phone.
And there she goes. 120.
Sorry about that.
Ah, that's pretty funny.
um, so that's something I really learned since then, is that if someone, like, for example, I was in South Africa and someone said, oh, you're going to Kruger National Park. Oh my God, it's so dangerous now. Be careful. And I'm like, what, what exactly do you mean? Where is it dangerous and why is it dangerous? And then she said, well, there is one gate to the park. Kruger is a big national park in South Africa. It's world famous. And she said there's one gate where there are gangs hanging out, and they have just shot at a car. Um, and I don't know if someone was hurt. I don't remember. But so then that was like a concrete warning. And she said, I think you should avoid that gate. But that, I, as a traveler, can use that. That's valid information. That's good. I will not go there. I will take one of the other gates. But to just say, oh, you're going to Kruger, that's so dangerous. That's just bullshit. That just makes me scared for everything. So yeah, to really be very critical with what kind of advice you take from people. That's something I really learned.
And that's great advice, honestly, because it's true. When somebody tells me it's dangerous, I automatically am at worst case scenario, like getting shot,
Yeah,
violence, you know, that kind of stuff. But sometimes it's dangerous.
yeah,
Well, the road washed out. So it's dangerous to cross it, for example, right? You're like, that's different than what I was thinking. So that's
exactly.
pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
So as you're,
Or it can just be it can be a warning, don't take that road, it's so bad. And then you're like, oh, what do you mean it's that bad? Oh, it's so potholed. And you're like, oh, that sounds like fun. I'm on a dual sport bike. I'm gonna love it. So, just to be super concrete about these things is important.
yeah, for
Yeah.
real. So,
So now we were in beautiful Mexico,
mhm,
and it was freaking lovely and colorful and very friendly and different and difficult because we didn't understand the language, and we had all these lost in translation situations where we just like completely misunderstood the situation, and we just were so scared, and then afterwards we realized that, oh my God, we were just idiots. uh, but it was so cool, beautiful country.
oh yeah.
That was really really a big experience. And we in Mexico they have something called, it's like a selection of towns that have something very special culturally, and they call them Pueblo Mágico, so magical towns, and we realized that, oh, they are really worth visiting because they are extraordinary. And so we kind of went from one Pueblo Mágico to the next, and that was just, it really lived up to the name. It was just stunning, stunning, stunning. So yeah, Mexico was really a favorite for me.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
pretty funny story about Mexico. My dad's been all over the world climbing mountains and stuff, and we ended up going
Wow.
down to Pico de Orizaba. So that's a series. There's 3 mountains. They're all volcanoes and stuff, and they're all like 18,000 feet plus. So we decided we're going to go down and climb this volcano. So we fly down to Mexico City. We do our thing, walking through the city, and we end up taking these cars. We go to a national park for a couple days to kind of acclimate, climbing another mountain and stuff. And we get over to Tlaquechuca, which is where kind of the climbers would all kind of go to this old soap factory, kind of stay. And then we were there for a couple days, all inclusive. Essentially, they were making your meals and stuff, and then they put you in these old like Dodge Power Wagons from World War II or whatever, and they take you up towards base camp. And we're sitting around that town, and so here's these what they call, the gringos walking around. At the time, I was playing in bands, and I was in a band at this time, and it was doing pretty good. So I had like bleach bleached hair with like purple tips and this long goatee that was like bleached out and goes to purple, right? It's so
Purple tip. Oh my God.
back in the day, right? So we're walking around town, and all the schoolgirls would like run around the corner and peek around the corner and just start giggling and laughing and pointing at me and then running away and stuff. There's this big 6'4" guy walking around, just like, oh my gosh, look at him. And then we have pictures on the mountain. We have this hat I would climb with that I had since I was a kid. And the wind's blowing, and my goatee is like 90 degrees to the right or 90 degrees to the left. It's just like, wow, that happened. Just,
Oh, how cute.
oh, it was hilarious. Looking back on it, I'm just like, yeah, that was me. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was like,
But
I think
really,
2001.
really amazing country,
Yeah.
I think. And we went through Copper Canyon, and when we got to the bottom, it's a huge canyon, not as dramatic as Grand Canyon because there's more vegetation and it's more eroded, so you don't have those extreme sharp ridges that you do in Grand Canyon, but it's still very epic, beautiful, and a crazy road down there. And down in the bottom, there's an old silver mine city, and the um, indigenous people there, they work in their national clothes or their folklore clothing. It's incredible. And down there, we met a Dutch guy who said, there is a road out of here straight towards the coast, so you don't have to go back up the canyon again. And he didn't really have much more information, so we went to the local museum and asked the guy there, and he was kind of like, yeah, it's easy, you just follow the road and it's like straight ahead. And so we built up some courage and took off the next morning. And then after 2 kilometers, the road did like this the first time. So we're like, okay, shit. And then it just kept doing that. And I tell you, we were just 100% completely lost in this enormous mountain area. And we had a compass. We didn't have any maps, no paper maps, no nothing, no GPS, nothing. And we kept asking if we met a local on a donkey or something, we would be like, we knew the name of the town we were heading to. And we kept saying that. And they all said, yeah, it's just straight ahead 3 hours. And 2 days later, we still hadn't reached it.
Oh, wow.
And it was like super hot, like 40 degrees hot and Celsius.
Yeah.
And we were, of course, running out of petrol and water and everything. And every time we met someone, they just said the same thing. And we came through this weird town where everybody were drunk and very aggressive. It was, you just felt immediately, we got to get out of here right now. And then we camped in this riverbed, which is, I cannot recommend doing that. You should normally never camp in a riverbed, but we did. And then up the canyon, it was like really narrow. It was a super crazy place to put up your tent, really, like the worst place imaginable. But then up the canyon on the side of the river, there was a little family up there with a farm, and we ended up staying with them and playing with the pups and the small pups, and what do you say, pups,
Pups.
small dogs,
Yeah, puppies.
yeah, puppies, thank you, and a kitten, and it was just so nice. So it was, it went all the time. It went from shit, we're lost, to oh my god, this town is terrible, to oh my god, this is so beautiful, oh my god, this camping is amazing. And I kept the bike kept falling over because it was so difficult riding. It was either super steep and washed out, or it was sand in the riverbed. So I think like after 8 times that day, we were just so exhausted from picking up my bike, and sometimes his bike as well, but mostly mine. And then the next morning we took off, and I dropped the bike immediately, of course, in the sand. And then we came up to this house, and there were a group of teenagers sitting with freaking big guns, like automatic guns. And we had run out of water at that time, so we really needed water. So we just stopped and we gave them some compliments for their big guns. And they thought, nobody expects two weird people looking like astronauts in our weird motorcycle gear to turn up around the corner. So I don't think there was ever any risk of anyone robbing us or anything, but it just felt a little bit like, oh my God, teenagers with big guns feels so unsafe.
Right.
But they were just kind of laughing at us, and we were just kind of smiling, just fake it till you make it. And then we got some water and we took off and got out of there, and we're like, fuck, what was that? And then, yeah, so we made it out of, eventually we found the town and made it out of Copper Canyon. So yeah, that was a crazy, crazy part.
You say a 3-hour drive took it to 2.5 days?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. What an adventure, though, honestly. So,
It was so
yeah,
cool.
how did you
Yeah.
deal with the Darien Gap once you got down there?
Right. So we flew the bikes with a cargo airplane. At that time, there was still a German boat called Stahlratte that would take tourists on the Caribbean side. He would go forth and back between Panama and Colombia with his boat, a sailboat, and that would have been amazing. But we then had to wait 3 weeks in Panama for him to get there, and then also the time on the boat would take too much time. And we had the deadline of the Dakar Rally in Copiapó, so we couldn't afford that.
Oh, you got to get your coffee.
So we decided, exactly. So we went to a cargo air company and put the bikes on there, which was, you deal with stuff like that in Spanish. We didn't speak Spanish, and it was a little difficult. It feels very unsafe to just, take your bike to a warehouse somewhere and leave it, and then fly to Colombia and then hope the bikes arrive at some point. And then all the time they said, oh yeah, they're going to fly today. But then it was, oh no, it's not going to fly today. It's going to be tomorrow. And then tomorrow, oh no, it's not going to fly today. It's going to be tomorrow. And we were so nervous, but eventually the bikes came and everything was fine. So another thing I worried about that wasn't necessary.
Oh, for sure. Did you guys, I mean, obviously you knew about the Darien Gap and that you're going to have to do something about it. So it sounded like the boat was the first option, and then
Yeah,
having the plane was just kind of like a plan B if need be. Were you obviously,
yeah,
so you flew ahead of the bikes, And he said it took a few days. And once it got there, was it just like, let's go? Were you just ready to just let's go? I'm so excited. Or was it like, I could use another day?
Ah, I think it was scary as well because now we had arrived in this country that even more people, except for one person, had warned us about, and and we had kind of left behind North and Central America, and now we were finally in South America, and it was just like this big mouthful, really. But then Colombia is unbelievably friendly, and I don't know how it is now, but at that time, it was there was no tourists there. There were no travelers, none that we met, anyways. So the locals are just like literally coming up and giving you a hug and saying thank you for visiting our countries or our country. Um, and I think because they know of the reputation that they've had in the world for many years, and they just love that, it maybe for them it's like a sign of normalization that people finally start come to visit their country, and they're just like, oh wow, thank you, and they are proud of their country as well with good reason. So I can understand that. Yeah, so that was really something. Very, very friendly and extremely beautiful, very lush and green, and yeah,
You really just
of course they
solidified
still have
you just solidified something that a taxi cab driver actually told me. I was going on vacation. We were down in Miami, and we are gonna actually do a cruise. And the taxi guy that was taking us to the boat was from Colombia. And he was really talking Colombia up. He's like, "You've gotta go." He's talking to me, like, in such enthusiasm about, "Look, it's safe, it's safe. Just don't go to this part of this part, but it's safe, it's beautiful, the
yeah,
beaches are amazing." And like, hard
yeah,
sell on it, and to the point where I'm on my phone looking at it going, "Yeah, yeah. Wow, that is nice." Like, I think I wanna go there. And so
yeah.
it's the same thing as everything else, right? You hear about the little danger, and then the rest is just stunning. And the fact that another writer from your same country was like, "Nah, go. You have to hit it." Yeah. I
You gotta go. If I had to pick one country in South America, like I haven't been to all of them. I haven't been to Brazil or Uruguay or Paraguay or Venezuela. I'm sure they're all amazing. But if I had to pick one out of the countries that we visited, it would be Colombia for sure.
Yeah,
That was just amazing.
that's encouraging. I love it.
And then it was so modern as well. So hearing all this crap about Colombia, and then you arrive in this modern capital with skyrises and just fantastic infrastructure. And I'm sure they have their issues with some roads and stuff, but overall, it's just a big city with a very, a huge international airport, that's the funny part, and that's what you are surprised by in every place. When you go to, yeah, whatever country you travel to, there's always this modern capital. Also in Africa, we never see, because of course, when you travel to Africa, you want to see what for us is real Africa. You want to see the animals, you want to see the villages with the thatched roofs and all that. Because I don't need to see another capital. I've seen plenty of them. But obviously, like Nairobi is a pretty cool capital in Kenya. So every country has this modern side as well, but it's just not the stereotype that media choose to show us.
Of course. And being going out in the rural place through your trips, obviously, you need to use some of those bigger cities, capital cities, or whatever, because you're like, again, I need
Yeah,
tires, I need this, I need that. Things are wearing out.
yeah,
It's a good place to go get your parts and stuff. So,
yeah.
so how do you just question now? Do you planning your trip? So you're like A, B, C, D. These are the places I'm going. Well, my knobbies are getting a little low. Do you just roll into a town and hope to get some, or are you like, I really like these tires, and so I'm gonna find a shop in whatever town and order parts or see if they have them?
Yeah, this is definitely a challenge. So I think on the Alaska to Argentina adventure, we definitely did not plan very well. But we did know, for example, that there was a KTM store uh, in the capital of Peru, in Lima. So we were counting on tires there, and I don't recall the other places. We changed, I think maybe we went from Denver. We got tires in Denver, and then we went all the way to Lima, I think, on that set of tires. I
Wow.
don't recall that we changed. But then, for example, with sprocket and chains, we did a horrible job at planning. I mean, I have to send you some photos. There is no teeth left whatsoever on those sprockets.
Oh, wow.
They are just flat. Unbelievable. So yeah, we did a pretty poor job at that. I have to, and I mean, we were very inexperienced then. And now when I travel alone, I am way more planned in terms of spare parts and tires. So I will probably exchange my things before it's needed to avoid, or buy them and then bring them for the next 3,000 kilometers because I know I'm going to need them in 3,000 kilometers. So I will be a little bit more on the safety side in that way. But yeah, we didn't plan too good back then.
That's just one of those things,
But
you're just talking about a while ago, like border crossings, doing your due diligence, make sure you have all your paperwork and whatever. And now if somebody's who might be listening to this is like, I want to do this. Like, wait, chain and sprocket? What do you mean? Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Tires and stuff, right? So always got to be thinking ahead. You see some of these guys too on like some of the GSAs, right? And they're like we're going through Mongolia and they are stacked with just stuff. They have so many
yeah,
bags and everything on the back, and then they have a set of tires strapped to the front of their bikes. I'm just like,
yeah.
I get
Oh,
it, but why? Oh my gosh.
oh,
Crazy.
that's the worst. I've done that quite a bit with carrying the tires because I know that I cannot get tires before in 20,000 kilometers. I need to buy them now, but I don't want to change them just yet because those that I have already on, they are still good. So, and also when you travel far, you need to be a little bit careful with your money as well. And then you choose to carry them, and then you hate every day. It's the worst ever.
Oh, these things
Oh,
again.
I hate it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You could also you could do that where you roll up your T-shirts and stuff and put Saran wrap around the tires and line the inside of your tires with stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this one's on my undergarments,
Oh,
this
yeah.
one's on my T-shirts, there we go. But, yeah, that seems a
Yeah.
little much. I've like I said, I have seen some of those pictures of those GS guys, and I'm just like, "That is stupid much." Like, you're stacked up above your helmet. Why? What you
Yeah.
got the kitchen sink
That's
back there too?
insane.
It's incredible.
Yeah. But whatever does it for you, if that's what makes you happy, it is to have your camping chair and your barbecue and stuff, and that's the great adventure. That
Yeah.
that's awesome. Whatever makes your day, that's just so cool. I think so. I don't think there is one way, but I know for me, traveling light is super important, and I go to extremes. You will not even believe it. I will weigh every single thing, and I will go to lengths to cut down 40 grams of my headlight, for my head.
Mhm.
I will just go so far. I will cut away the handle on my brush. I will. I really look at every single thing, and I'm like, do I want to carry you across to Africa? No, I don't need you that bad. So then, out you go. I'm really crazy with this. And I have a list of every little thing. And, this little thing weighs 86 grams. This little thing weighs 120 grams. My sleeping bag, now I'm going up in weight on my sleeping bag because it's not warm enough.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be more comfortable, but I'm actually adding 200 grams. So I'm not too happy about that. But then I'm going to decrease the weight on my tent. So I'm going to go from a 2-person to a 1-person tent. So I'm going to cut away 1.5 kilo, which is really a lot.
Yeah, this is a lot.
So yeah, I am. that crazy with that now. It's really like my thing.
I think that's a legitimate thing too. I'm used to seeing that too because my dad would do that. "Oh, I got to put it on my back, so I'm going to cut this stuff down." But it's funny that you say like a two-person tent to a one-person tent because people who don't understand moto camping or the moto world or whatever, that extra space is just kind of nice just to keep your stuff inside, your helmet and your pants and your jacket
Yeah,
and stuff, keeping them away from the creepy crawlers outside, right? So I like having
exactly.
the
Yeah,
2 man, but if you are definitely trying to cut back, I mean, you can make do with that one-man tent. My dad's got this one, it's almost like a shoulder to shoulder thing, and it's just like, wow, that's pretty small.
yeah.
But he loves it.
Yeah, so I'm getting the tent down to like 950 grams, which is pretty amazing. And but it's also specifically for that Algeria desert ride,
Mhm.
uh, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of dunes, and so I really want it to be super super light. So yeah, uh, if I were going on like a long, like a 1 year trip or something, I wouldn't go with that one. It's simply too uncomfortable.
Yeah. Temporary.
So this is more, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So, kind of
Yeah.
kind of planning for things too. Do you do practice, like, when you're going over there and you're, "Oh, I got a lot of dunes." Are you like, "I need to go live in the sand for a little bit before I leave and, touch up my skills and
Yes.
stuff?" Or do you rewatch the video you're in with Michael and, how to ride over there?
Oh, I think of him a lot of them. Just for those who didn't see that video, when I came through the Middle East, I got a message from Michael. Michael and Kristen, his wife, lives in Dubai, and he teaches people how to ride in the dunes with big bikes.
Mhm.
And he was riding a 1200 GS in the freaking dunes. Unbelievable. And so he wrote to me, Henrietta, I saw you struggling with the sand. When you come to Dubai, come stay with me and I will teach you how to ride in the sand. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to go to Dubai. And it was so much fun. It was so crazy. He was so skilled.
Yeah.
And yeah,
He's a hell of a
I'm still
rider.
dead scared.
What's really funny
He's
about him is
unbelievable.
I put something out. Can't remember what I was doing. I was just out being a dork one day, and I just put like a reel out, like, "How do you do this? If anybody knows, message me." Right? And it was like almost like within the hour, he's like, this long message. "Okay, this is what you need to do. Put the bike like this, do this." And it was like a total breakdown. I was like, "Dude, I love you, man. This is rad.
Wow.
Thank you so much."
So cool.
Yeah, stellar guy. And
Yeah.
it's Adventure Motor
Yeah, he's,
Skills with a Z, right? So
yeah. ADV motor
that's
skills.
right. Yeah. Yep. So
Yeah, and actually, if you live in Europe, get on a plane, fly to Dubai, rent a bike, and go train with him. It's easy. So yeah, that I can definitely recommend.
yeah.
And so yeah, I do. I actually, so I did a lot of sand this winter. So that was a excellent kind of training for me. That was really difficult and very cool. But the bike I ride now, the Honda CRF 250L,
Mhm.
it's a little bit too weak for the loose sand, especially uphill. Um, so it only has 24 horsepower and it weighs 146 kilos. So it's really it's a great bike. I absolutely love it, but for the sand, it's struggling. Um, so I bought a Suzuki DRZ 400
Mhm.
that I'm working on now that I plan to take to Algeria and Mauritania. So that has, I think, 42 horsepower and it weighs about 10 kilos less. So it's a good change.
Definitely a good change. And, do we have a name for that one
Yeah.
yet?
I'm working on it.
It's not
I'm working on it.
what is it? Honey the Honda or Honda the Honey?
Honey the
Yeah.
Honda, exactly. And then I just found a really cool name for a goddess that
Mm.
I think could be very fitting for the Suzuki, but I haven't decided yet.
Right? It's funny.
But the name, of course, is important.
Oh, it is, and it's funny when the names come to you, you're just like, "That's it. That that's it. That's the
Yeah,
one." Right? and just start going with it. I recently bought a bike, and everybody's asking me what I named it, and I thought it was going to be Flash. And then the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's dumb. I don't want to name it Flash, so let's just forget about that one, right? So now I play into it. So like in my videos and stuff, I pretend she's just like a temperamental girlfriend, so I'll my partner and have to go up a hill and look at it or something, and I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna walk away right now. Okay, well, whatever. And then I come back and I'm like, don't be mad. Why are you mad at me? What? I just went over there. Why are you yelling? Do all that stuff. I don't know if
Sweet.
she'll ever have a name or not. I don't know. Maybe it's just her. I don't know. Maybe that's just the name.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
I like that.
So
Yeah, and it becomes quite personal when you're out there. You really rely on that piece of machinery. So it's not like a lot of people are like, oh, the Honda, you could never sell it or exchange it or ride something else, and that's not true. I mean, I absolutely love the Honda. It's so reliable, and it's so mellow. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but I feel it keeps me alive because it's never going to go crazy on me. It's never going to go on a rear wheel and just take off over a mountainside because it's just kind of mellow. And I think for traveling, that is a really good thing. I'm not out there to ride a rally or something. I'm out there to explore the world and meet locals and see animals and see nature. I'm not in a hurry. So I prefer the bike to be a little slower and to just keep me alive. So yeah, I really love it, but I of course, come on, who am I kidding? Going uphill against the wind on a highway on the Honda, it's a little depressing, I have to say. It's like, come on, like, can we do more than 80 kilometers an hour, of course. So yeah, it's a little underpowered.
yeah, a little bit, but that's okay though. Like you said, it's
Yeah.
not going to give you that whiskey throttle where you're riding the rear wheel for a while. Yeah, that's.
No.
I have a friend that, again, Critter. That's what he has. He has a CRF 250L named Lucy. So we do a lot of riding with it. And I have the Africa Twins. So, exactly what you just said.
Oh, nice.
Uphill and a little bit of wind. I look in my mirror and I'm like, oh, Critter's right there. And then a few minutes later, I'll look back there. I'm like, where'd he go?
It's just gone.
I don't even see him anymore.
Oh, it's so annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But mostly, I mean, also when you learn how to ride that bike, it can be pretty aggressive.
Mhm.
So it's also how you ride it that makes a difference. So yeah, I think the Honda is a super travel bike. It's so reliable. It just freaking goes. Unbelievable. Mine has done 130,000 kilometers now. That's pretty good for a small 250.
Oh, absolutely.
But I bet it can do double.
Yeah. No. Hondas to me are one of those bikes I'll just go forever. Just change the oil once in a while.
Yeah.
Put new tires
Yeah.
on it. You're fine. Just keep going. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And that means a lot. That said, a few breakdowns on the road, it's just gonna be more adventurous. So people often ask me about tools because a lot of people know that I love my tools. I'm a bit of a tool nerd, and they're like, okay, but do we really need those tools? And what should I bring on my adventure? And I'm like, how adventurous do you want it to be? If you want really cool adventure, don't bring any tools. But if you want to be what do you say, reliable
Yeah.
or
Reliant. Yep.
independent, reliant, then bring the full tool set, and you don't need anybody. But if you don't have tools, you need to speak with people, which is pretty cool.
Right.
But and you get uncomfortable, and yeah. I think this is maybe an advice for men, because I see a lot of men like you. You're very capable often. Most guys are super capable. They like to know their bikes and to be able to fix them themselves, and where a bigger percentage of women are kind of used to that or you take it to the mechanic, or you get someone else to do it, but you're not really doing the tools yourself. But sometimes needing other people, that's really where the magic happens. And hanging out in a small workshop somewhere on a corner in Africa with local mechanics, nothing is cooler than that.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to not, and that comes back to also not bringing all that gear. Sometimes on a campground, walking around and asking people, oh, do you have some salt I can borrow or I can have? Then you have a great conversation, and suddenly you're sitting down and having cold beer with someone. And so, yeah, that's a good way of thinking, if I don't bring this thing, it's going to give me a greater adventure. So maybe that helps people to not fill up the bags as much.
I think that little nugget of knowledge right there is astronomically important, because I am just
Yeah.
like, I'm the guy. I just recently, like, I don't know, last summer went out and bought these little things so I could put all my little salt and pepper and seasonings and everything in it, and I'm like, why do I need shit? Let's get rid of it. Maybe we can talk to somebody. I think that is freaking rad.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
getting to know people, especially, I think, kind of a relatable moment almost as a truck driver, right? So sometimes you have these days where I call them just travel days. You just wake up and you're just traveling all day. And there'll be times where like the phone will ring like 6 hours in your day or 4 hours in your day. And you're like, hello? You're like, wow, that was the first thing I said all day. I haven't talked to anybody. And then you get done at the end of the day, and sometimes you go to a restaurant or you're outside your truck doing a post trip or whatever, and somebody's like, "Hey, dude, how you doing?" You're like, "Oh, what's up, man? How are you?" And you just have these cool conversations. Almost the same thing where it's just like I would have never had,
Yeah.
if I was fulfilled with people, I just would have been just want to go do my stuff, go
Yeah.
away, right? So I think that's
Exactly.
valuable, and people are awesome, regardless of what a small percentage are. People are
So
fantastic.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what through all your travels, so you get done, you go through Colombia and you went through Ushuaia and you went a little south beyond that. Um, then what did you do with the bikes afterwards? Did you fly them home? Did you?
Oh, but before we get there, we need to make it to Copiapó for the
Oh,
Dakar
yes,
Rally.
yes. We need to go back to the coffee. Let's go back to the coffee.
We need to go
Absolutely.
back to that, because what was so crazy about that was that we had this deadline, right? And coming down through Ecuador and Peru and Bolivia, we went into Bolivia to go in and see the Salar de Uyuni, which is this massive salt lake, dried salt lake, up on the South American altiplano
Isn't
in the Andes
that's the
mountains.
isn't that the biggest dried up salt lake in the world?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but it's definitely up there, and it's epic. It's unbelievable. And so we then crossed the desert from there straight into Chile, on some dirt roads. Again, no maps, no nothing, just based on some people said, oh, we think it's that way. And if you keep kind of that volcano on your right side, eventually at some point you should reach the border. And so we took off, and this was during the wet season. So we just hit these massive mud fields, uh, also kind of salt lake areas. And it was wet, so we just got stuck in this mud. Both bikes were completely stuck in it. And the challenge is that you don't know, is it getting worse or is it getting better? So we just had to walk through these things, and we kind of, okay, it seems like it's not getting worse, so let's take off the bags and walk them through this mud. And you're up in 4,000 meters already, so you're already like struggling just to breathe. And now you're walking in this heavy mud with all your luggage. And I had, talking about carrying extra tires, so I had a set of extra tires on my bike, so we could kind of put them in front of the rear wheel, and then I was pushing the bike, and then Lars, he was pushing the handlebar, and then it got traction on that extra tire. So then we managed to get it out of the mud and then push them through. And then so, you get cold and wet and hungry and tired and everything. And then we got the bikes out of this mud, and then it started raining. And then Lars had a puncture. So it was just like, oh my God. And this day was terrible. Then we continued, and suddenly we saw these tiny buildings in the distance. And then that was the border crossing. So we just pushed his bike there, drove my bike there, and finally got there. And we were like, oh, we're relieved. We are now, this is Chile. Chile is civilized. It's organized. There's definitely going to be petrol, because also petrol was really difficult to get in Bolivia in general. In Salar de Uyuni, the town is called Uyuni. They had run out of petrol, which is a regular thing there. And we had to wait there 3 days to get petrol. So already we were kind of behind schedule. Now we were stuck in the mud. Now the puncture. Now all this. And then when we got to Chile, to the border, there was no petrol station, which we would have known if we had asked people before, but we were stupid, so we didn't. And so coming back to what I said before, when you are, when we needed people now because we needed help. So I literally walked, and it's a tiny border crossing. It's a little town with maybe, 30 houses. And I literally walked to every single door and knocked on the door and asked if I could buy, if they had petrol I could buy. But none had any petrol. So we were like, oh shit, what do we do? Nothing is happening here. And we were like, okay, let's just continue. And we're still high up in the Andes Mountains. It's super cold, super windy. And we thought, okay, let's just go. And then we simply stop every vehicle on the road. We stop them and ask if they have petrol. So we just did that. Stopped every vehicle, oh, stop, please. Oh, do you have petrol we can buy? Nobody had, until one guy, he then had 5 liters we could buy. And then that took us almost to the next city. But then there was like a water station, like a drinking water station. And we went in there, and there was a worker there who went home to his home and got some petrol for us. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. But it was every day it was a new challenge, and we were just delayed. So we were like, oh my God, we're never gonna make it to that coffee date. But then we made it the next morning. Then we got to Copiapó, and we drove up to the gate for the bivouac, because then it was the rest day for the car rally. And we thought, of course, that we were just going to be watching the bivouac from outside, and that he would come out and meet us. But then his press agent came out. No, he came out, and he brought press passes for us. So we were invited into the Dakar Rally bivouac, which was just so mind-blowing. It was so mind-blowing. Our jaws were just down here. It was crazy. It was so loud everywhere. Everywhere they were working on the big trucks and the cars and the motorbikes, and it was just so loud. And we expected that he would just, needed to sleep, because he would be exhausted from, 7 days already of hell. But he was so energized that we were there, that he spent 3 hours just walking around with us. We went to the briefing for the next day. Every day they have like a briefing where they go through the route for the next day. And so we went there with him, and we were standing right next to the winner of the Dakar Rally and everything. And we were just so starstruck. And we had the coffee, of course, and it was actually really freaking good coffee. And then the press responsible for the official Dakar Rally, they heard that we were there, and came over and said, "Hey, can we make an interview with you guys?" And we were like, "Excuse us? Like, what do you mean?" And they were like, "Yeah, this is amazing. You rode all the way from Alaska to here to meet your friend. That's such a cool story. Do we want to make a story for the website?" And we were like, we are so normal. Like, we get tired from riding 500 kilometers on asphalt. Like, we are just humans. These guys are freaking superheroes. Like, but then of course we did the interview, and then we were on the front page of the Dakar Rally that next day, and we were
Wow.
like, "Oh my god!"
That's cool.
So that was cool. And our friend, he completed the rally. I think he became number 60 or something, and it was just unbelievable. It was so cool. So yeah, that we made it to that one very important deadline.
What an experience. How cool is that? Just to be in that
Yeah, that
environment
was
too,
very cool.
where, probably just being out, like you said, like just a day or so earlier, you're
Yeah.
trying to go through all the mud and carrying your bags around and everything. And now you're here with like the pits and all the big boys are there, and, all the sponsors. And it's just like, what a contrast of night and day.
Oh, crazy
You're
contrast.
like, hey, I need those
And these
tires.
guys, and huh?
You're like, hey, I need a set of those tires, please.
Oh, absolutely, they had plenty.
Right?
And those guys, and both men and women, they are so hardcore. It's so unbelievable what they do. I mean, the liaison part, just to where the track starts, can be 250 kilometers, and then they go 400, 500 kilometers, the actual route of that day, the section of that day, and then they have another 300 kilometers to camp. What?
Jeez.
And it's just so, I don't know how it's even possible. But I mean, often even somebody dies, during the rally, because it's so crazy. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for what they do. It's just insane.
Yeah,
It really
those
is.
guys are incredible. You watch those guys
Yeah.
recently, watching those guys just screaming down in the desert, and they look at the helicopter, and all of a sudden they're doing a wheelie for like a half a mile, and you're like, all right, stop showing off. You're just like next level rider, next level. It's awesome.
Oh, next level. Yeah.
So good to watch
It's
them.
very cool. So yeah, then we continued down through Chile, crossed into Argentina. We wanted to come back to Chile to go down and see the famous mountains and glaciers in the south. And I don't know why, I forgot the name now, but
Patagonia?
it's like that epic. Sorry.
Patagonia?
Yeah, it's part of Patagonia, but it's a
Oh,
specific mountain that I'm thinking of. Yeah. Doesn't matter. But when we were in the Argentinian part on Ruta 40, Route 40, which is this epic long dirt road, um, suddenly the Suzuki broke down. I was going 100 kilometers an hour, and then the second gear broke, and obviously just created a explosion inside. And yeah, it was really bad. So then, and we were in the middle of nowhere in Patagonia, far, far from anything. So Lars took off to the nearest town to find a truck that could come and pick up the Suzuki, and managed to find one, and then came back and picked me up, and then we took it to the coast where there was a motorcycle mechanic, and he just opened up and he was like, this is bad. There was just metal
no.
splinters everywhere. It was just crazy. Yeah. So, and at that time we only had 3 weeks left to make it all the way down to Ushuaia, which is the southernmost town you can ride to, and then make it back up to Buenos Aires, where we were going to fly home from. So, and I paid $2,000 for the bike. It had taken me already 40,000 kilometers on this trip. So I was like, okay, this is it. And now it was definitely also not a good idea to ship it home to Denmark, because the bike was broken. Why would I spend a lot of money doing that? So I just left it there. And then we went two up on Lars's bike,
Mhm.
and then continued two up the last part down to Ushuaia, and then back to Buenos Aires, where he managed to sell the bike for the same amount that he bought it for.
Oh, no kidding.
And then
Just
we
complete
flew.
wash. Here we go.
Yeah,
That is
that's
awesome.
awesome. So the whole thing, 2 bikes, 40,000 kilometers, total 80,000 kilometers, cost us $2,000 in in
Oh
bikes.
my gosh. What a
Oh, it was so
bargain.
crazy. Yeah,
That is freaking
it
awesome.
was a bargain. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Complete wash. I love it. I love it. So, how was it getting home after a trip? Because I know it's not the same, right? You've been gone for months, right? And so I go out for weeks, but when I come home, there's that adjustment period, right? It's another day or two of just
Yeah.
being adjusted. So how is that when you kind of get back to the real world, if you will, of I don't have to get on the motorcycle today. I'm sleeping in this bed every night and kind of trying to adjust and I got to go back to work now and do all this stuff. Is it hard to adjust to that?
Very, very hard. Very hard. So the sleeping in the same bed is pretty awesome. That part is just great.
I bet.
But all the other stuff, I mean, obviously coming home and seeing your family and friends is really nice as well. But I came home Thursday and started a new job on Monday. That was brutal, really freaking brutal. And the thing is that when you are away 8 months, where you have nothing in your calendar, nothing, just a big white calendar with nothing for 8 months, it's very hard to get back into being so scheduled as we are, because in our part of the world, in the Western world, we are so scheduled. Like 8 o'clock is the first meeting at work, and 9:30 is the next meeting, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then at 5 o'clock I go to the fitness center, and tonight at 8 I'm meeting my friend, and we are going to go see a movie, and for many people this is how their entire week schedule looks like. It's completely booked all the time, and so coming from nothing back to duck 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 like that was just so hard for me, really really hard. I didn't like that at all. And then on top of that, the fact that we had broken up, so now I needed to find a new place. So Lars bought my share of the apartment and stayed there, and then I was looking for a new home. So that took some time, and had to then establish myself in a new place, and so it was difficult also for that reason. I felt a little bit that it was kind of a failure, which it wasn't. I see that today. No, we succeeded. We succeeded to do this together. It was amazing, despite the fact that we broke up. But at the time, it wasn't something we were super proud about, and just struggling with the emotional part of it as well. It was not easy. So yeah, I didn't enjoy that period at all.
Yeah, and rightly so. I can only
So I
imagine the emotional strain and stress of coming home, gotta gotta find another place, got this job, trying to adjust. That is, to me, I mean, that
yeah
just seems overwhelming right there, for sure.
yeah. And on top of that, I also think that traveling from Alaska to Argentina in 8 months is a bit too fast. At least for me, I know some people can do it faster, and that fits their personality. But for me, I felt we were constantly in a rush. So except for the times where we had kind of reserved time for Machu Picchu and stuff, we kind of had to go all the time. And so we said that, okay, we go for 5 days and then we have 1 day break. That was kind of the rhythm. And now when I travel, I have way more breaks than I did then. And that's, for me, that's a lot to do in 8 months, to have that speed. I was just exhausted, really, when I came home.
I'm sure.
So yeah, that wasn't super great, and I have learned how to do it differently now. So I don't put myself under that level of stress anymore when I come home.
If you're gonna do that trip again,
So
how
yeah.
long would you do 12 months for it?
Yes, I think 12 months is fair. Absolutely. Yeah. And obviously, you could spend easily 2 years doing it if you want to explore a little bit more. I mean, if you think of it, how much of the US have I actually seen? How much of Canada I actually have seen? You see just a little bit close to the route that you choose, but there's so much more. I would love to crisscross all of the US and all of Canada, and I would love to see way more of Mexico. And yeah, so you could spend so much more time. But I think 12 months is a good minimum.
Yeah.
And then there are people who do it in 3 months, and I don't know how they do that, but we're all different.
Yeah, they just scream the whole way. Did you see this? No. Did you see that? Nope. Rode right by it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Did you spend the evening with this little family with the pups and the kitten? And uh, no, they didn't, because they arrived late at the hotel and they had a hotel dinner, and then but that's also okay. And maybe those 3 months that was what you were able to do. That was what you were financially able to do, and the amount of time you could get off. So I don't think one is better than the other. It's just not for me. Then I would rather just spend 3 months in Canada. I mean, that would be awesome.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Do the TCAT, the Trans-Canadian Adventure Trail that takes 6 months to do? Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh my God, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that.
Well,
Damn.
yeah, if you go up there, let me know. I'll run into you
Have you
somewhere.
heard? Have you heard of the Trans-European Trail?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. This is going to be very expensive for you. There is something called the TET, Trans-European Trail, and it's a combination of trails all around that is combined through every country in Europe, and it's 80,000 kilometers, almost all dirt roads.
Sold.
Oh,
Sold. Let's go.
you're welcome. And since October last year, there's now a Trans-Moroccan Trail, which is epic. Simply epic. So yeah, there's another one for you. That's going to be a bit expensive as well.
It's just money. Can't take it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
True that.
Now you got my mind going in a whole different direction. I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to go right now.
Yeah.
So back on track. We'll stay focused here for a little bit longer before we go off on a tangent on how bad I want to do that. How long were you home before you're like, time to go again? I had to imagine it.
So when I came home, I bought a house with a garden, and I got a new job. And I enjoyed that a lot. I also really love being home. I love my house. I love gardening. And so for a little while, I didn't really. I think also I needed a little bit of distance because of that whole breakup.
Sure.
So for a little while, I didn't even ride at all. At some point, I got a car, which is definitely a mistake. I don't have a car anymore. I just have bikes.
Perfect.
And so I think after 6 years, I felt the urge to go on another big trip,
Wow, so
a big
that's
adventure.
a long chunk of time. That's a lot longer than I was thinking it would be.
Yeah. I didn't think when I came home, I thought that was it for me. But after 6 years, I felt you got to do another really big one. And so now I was single, and I knew that it was going to be a whole different thing, and that was pretty exciting. I was actually like mixed scared and really excited about that, because I knew now I was able to do it in my speed and with my personality and my fondness of meeting locals. So I had a feeling that it was going to be pretty amazing to do it alone. And then I started planning. I didn't dare to tell my mom that I was going to go again. And I started planning, and and so I went back to the world map on the wall and was looking at, where do I want to go? Do I want to ride? I always had this idea of riding to Japan. That would be amazing. But my eyes just kept coming back to Africa. And it was as if it was just predetermined that something had just decided that I was going to go to Africa. So I was just like, okay, I guess I'm going to Africa. And then I did, just as with the first trip, write or like drawing the route with a pen on the map. So I did the same thing. And I kind of like, okay, if I'm going to go all the way to South Africa, I might as well just first go all the way up to Northern Europe, like up to North Cape, so that I get from north to south, just because we did Alaska to Ushuaia. So,
Right.
so I felt that was natural. So I just drew this huge route of, so it would be 60 countries, 60,000 kilometers. And I forgot about the fact that I like to travel slow. So I asked for a leave of 1 year for my job for that route. And that's insane. I mean, that would, be all the way up to North Cape, which is already very far, and then down through Europe, then cross over from Spain to Morocco, then go down the west coast of Africa, and then come up the east coast, ship over to the tip of the Arabic Peninsula, and then go all the way through the Middle East, and then up through Turkey and come back to Europe that way. That's a pretty big plan. And so I went to my job and like, oh, can I get another leave of absence? This time 1 year. And they were like, yeah, we guess.
Wow.
So, yeah, pretty amazing, eh?
Yeah, very understanding company.
Yeah, but it's IKEA. They have excellent HR. And then I thought I was going to take off in 2023 because I didn't have money enough for it. So I needed to save. So I made like a savings plan, and I was like, okay, every month I can put aside this much, and it's going to cost me this much. Okay, that means I need to save for 3 years to do this. But then I managed to remortgage my house, and that gave me quite a lot of money, more than I needed actually. And then I turned 50, and then also I got sick with stress at work, and I had some pretty bad days where I actually had like suicidal thoughts. I remember I was driving home from work in the car on the highway, and then I physically I was so bad. I had this constant stomach pain, and I had like such a pressure on my chest that I felt I couldn't really breathe, and headache, and I just felt so bad, and I didn't sleep well at night, and I had this like chaos thinking all the time, and then I was driving there on the highway on the way back after another marathon day where I was working so many hours. And then there was this bridge on the highway with this concrete pillar. And I thought like, oh, if I just like turn the wheel and just drive into this concrete pillar, oh, I'm going to feel so good if I do that. And obviously I knew that was a pretty insane reflection or thought to have. So I realized that, okay, this is weird, and this is also not me. I'm really normally very positive in life. I think in general, I'm a very positive person. And then the next day I had the exact same thought. And then I thought, okay, Henriette, this is serious. You have to listen now, because your body is sending you all these signs that this is serious and you're not listening. But 2 days in a row having the thought of unaliving myself is maybe time to pull the plug. So I called in sick at work, and which was very good timing. And then I was home for 3 months. And during that time of being sick for 3 months, I was just in my sofa planning. It was like really my happy go-to place. was just planning this adventure. From picking the right tent to whatever small details, just exploring routes and plotting in things I wanted to see on the route and stuff like that. Figuring out, is there a motorcycle club in the capital of Angola, and all these small things that I prepare. And so after spending three months on the sofa, I started coming back to work slowly, but it was just awful, really. And I was like, "Ah, fuck this, I have the money for this trip. What am I even doing? Why am I here? Like, just go." Uh, but it was 2020 spring,
Yep.
and maybe you remember what happened back
Sure
then.
do.
So the world pretty much freaking shut down. And I thought, oh shit, can I do this now? I mean, are people gonna hate on me? And like, what are you doing? You're supposed to stay home and you can't travel. And then I thought, fuck it. I am gonna be sleeping in my tent in the Scandinavian forest, not speaking to a single person, just cooking my pasta and making a campfire. I'm not gonna be spreading any corona. So just go. And so I went. I took off on 1st of August 2020 on this epic journey to Africa and the Middle East, which was going to be 1 year, but then ended up being 3 years. So yeah, after almost a year, I was blocked so many places because of COVID. So I didn't manage to really get to the parts of Africa that I wanted. So I after I think 9 months, I called work and I was like, I'm not coming back because I'm not finished. And it was such a hard decision because to leave my work was a little, I think we all a little bit identify with what we do for work. I had a pretty good career. I had a very good job in management, corporate and head office. I had a great team, and so to quit was a tough decision. Also financially, like it's a steady income, and it was a good salary, and that salary also sponsors the fun stuff in life.
Mhm.
So it was tough, but deep down I just had this feeling that I'm not gonna regret it. Just do it. But it was difficult, I have to say. Yeah.
I saw,
But
I
yeah,
think early of that series, I can't remember, but seem to remember you were riding out and you met another young lady who was riding, and at some point you guys were, I think, at a campsite or you had to go into a town or something. It's been a minute since I've seen this video, but it was you guys were like worried that you're going to get in trouble because you were in close proximity of one another, just camping and hanging out and riding for a few days together or whatever. Thought it's pretty cool, but
yeah.
yeah, there's not, you guys are fine out there.
I'm really stoked that you remember her. This was Anne-Katrine from Germany. She was 19 when I met her,
Yeah.
and she'd already been on the road for more than a year, and she's still going strong. Uh, and she was so willing to be super uncomfortable. She had no money, and she would kind of work her way ahead. So she would find work on a farm or do some cleaning or in a cafe, make a little bit of money, and then she would continue. And she had a camera, and she was really good with taking photos. And she was, the young people, they know Instagram, they know TikTok and stuff, and she was really good with especially Instagram.
Hmm.
So so after a while, she got a sponsor, and then she got another, and it was not big money, but it was just enough to kind of keep her going. And she was so cool. I mean, the most unplanned girl. She didn't have a headlamp. She didn't have a knife. She didn't have fucking anything, and her stuff was always like all over the place. And I was like, "Oh, Ankersin, you gotta take your stuff in the evening into the tent because otherwise it's gonna be ruined." And she was just such a 19-year-old girl, like they are. It was just so cool. And I loved the fact that she was so unprepared and unplanned compared to me. And it's almost like I feel it's the best way to go. Just be super young, know nothing, just go. Don't have the right gear. Don't spend all your time looking at you need that exact bike or that exact set of bags or that climb gear. I love climb gear, by the way. You don't need all that at all. Just go. And then when you're old and you have a great job and you can afford it, then you can buy all that. But when you're young, just go. And what you don't know, you don't know. And that's almost a blessing, really. So yeah, she's very cool.
It's pretty phenomenal. Yeah, that was inspiring. I remember she had that big camera, and I'm just getting into cameras too, so I was like, "Ooh, what does she got there?" And she was trying to sell a
Yeah.
picture, take a picture or something for the sponsor. I had something. It's been a minute, so yes. So you made the
Yeah.
big decision. You quit the job, and you just kinda kept traveling during the Rona. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like you were saying, there's a whole traveling internationally like that is already kind of its own beast, right? But now you add in the corona
Yeah.
on top of everything and all the I'm sure you were getting very used to getting swabbed up the nose. Like, "Okay, here's another test," you know?
Oh,
That's
I don't know how much money I spent on that or how much trouble I had to go through to just get a booking, because especially in the beginning, before you knew something was a PCR test,
yeah.
like the first time you heard that term, I didn't know that. And I remember I had to go from Italy to Morocco, and there was a ferry. And to get on the ferry, I needed a corona test, but I had never heard the term PCR test, and I couldn't get any tests. So everywhere it was like 3 weeks waiting time to get a test, because this was early stage, and so the whole test facility wasn't really very big at that time anywhere in Europe. And so I had already bought the ferry ticket for to go there, so I really needed it. And then there was this one facility where if you turned up at 5 in the morning, they would take in the first 30 in line, even if you didn't have a booking. So I was there like 4:30 because I needed that test. And then I got in, and she does the swab thing, the terrible nose thing. And then she says, this is not a PCR test, right? And I'm like, what is a PCR test? And she says, oh, that's what you need to get on the ferry. I was like, okay, well, can you just do that then? Oh, no, no, no. There's 3 weeks waiting time for the PCR test. And I'm like, but what is it that you do then now? Aren't you doing a COVID test? And she's like, yeah, yeah, but this is like another one. It's a quick test. And I'm like, so what is the fucking difference?
Right?
I didn't say it that way. But I was like, what do you mean? Is it a test or is it not a test? I was so confused. And she was like, well, it is a test, but it's not as exact as the PCR. And you need the PCR to get on the ferry. So, and I was like, I don't understand anything. And then I had to cancel the whole ferry. I lost a lot of money. And also just the money for the PCR, because it was 60 euro for every time I needed to do a PCR test. It was so expensive. And then I finally got I had to rent a car, because that place for the PCR test, it was like a drive-through, and they didn't allow the motorbikes to ride through, which I was like, why can't I just lift up my visor and then you do the test? Like, what is the fucking difference? But and but I had to rent a car, and then it could only be like 72 hours before the ferry, and I was there like a little bit more. So I sat in this line of cars, and I kept waving the other cars in front of me to just bring down the number of hours closer to 72 hours. And this was just my reality all the time. To cross the border, I had to go through this reality of dealing with the PCR test. And on the other hand, I also really wanted to do them, because I was quite worried that I would cause problems for people, that I would bring COVID with me, and that I would be the cause that someone lost his old mother because of me. So like when I was in Morocco, that's the thing. Then I got to Morocco eventually, even if it was difficult. Nobody worried about COVID there. They were just like, inshallah, Allah, he has our back. And when he decides that it's time to go, it's time to go. And besides, we have bigger problems. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you have. But still, I would like go to hospitals when I got to bigger cities. I would go to hospitals and ask if I could do a test. And they were like, even the doctors and the nurses would be like, why? And I came from Europe where we would test all the time, but there they were just, why do you want the test? And I'm like, oh, I just want to make sure that I don't, bring the disease around. And they were like, oh, yeah, we guess. Okay, here you go.
Wow. What is it?
So
What a
yeah,
difference.
it was complete difference. And Europe was so, I would call it stiff, like so paralyzed of fear. Because what happened in Italy and Spain, especially, it was so terrible. I mean, imagine all your freaking cancer doctors just die. So nobody can get treated for cancer anymore. Like the whole, the hospitals, they were just collapsing completely. It was terrible. So of course the fear was real, and the situation was just terrible. So yeah, nobody wanted to talk to a stranger, a traveler. Stay away, please. So, but I kind of enjoyed, because I came from that stress situation from work. I actually enjoyed that I didn't have to talk to people. I just found places to camp and small guest houses as well, and they just like handed over the key, like, here you go, and then they went in and washed their hands. And yeah, but then I came to Morocco, and it was just like so chill, relaxed, and colorful, and just happy, and it's a very touristy country, but I was alone. There are no tourists whatsoever. Imagine walking through the main square in Marrakesh and you are freaking alone. That's insane. That it was just so cool, really. So I almost felt like I was like the first explorer that I discovered Africa. But yeah, it was very nice. And so of course the people there, many of them, they live off tourism, so their speed was just so down. They were just like sitting on the corners in front of their small stores. They hadn't sold anything for months, and here I come, and they're just like, oh, you want a cup of tea? Yeah. Just sat down and then spent a few hours in front of a store somewhere and just chatted, and it was so
I
nice.
love it.
So freaking chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that.
It was the best time to travel, really. And they needed money, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy some of your stuff. You need money.
Yeah, I love that. What
Yeah,
it goes back again. Just humanity for the most part. It's just fantastic humans. It's great. We
yeah,
love hearing these kind of stories.
yeah.
So, and how long were you in Morocco for then? Was it
I was stuck there. What happened was I managed to cross with one of the last ferries, and maybe 10 days after I came in, the border closed completely because of COVID, and I was stuck there for 6 months in Morocco.
okay, yeah.
So that was a few days of me really questioning my judgment, my decision, whether this was just the stupidest thing ever that I traveled at that time. But then after a few days of worrying, I got out, got on the bike. The weather was beautiful. The scenery was unbelievable. And I was like, hey, it's pretty nice. Maybe I just stay here. And I didn't know how long. And I just kind of changed my mindset from traveling through Morocco to exploring Morocco. And I just started crisscrossing the country. And then the thing, when you sit down and you have that cup of tea with the local and you just sit there for a few hours, then suddenly he invites you for a wedding in the family. And so then you go to this wedding and it's mind-blowingly crazy. And then you're invited to the next wedding. And then you suddenly find other local friends and you stay with their families. And now they insist that you go and visit their mother in another town. And now you go and visit their uncle in the third town. And you just kind of forwarded. And it was just so cool. I mean, it was really the best to have that amount of time in one country, 6 months in one country. You never get that. You're lucky if you get 3 months. So it was really a blessing in disguise, I think, and it totally took out the speed of this journey, if there was any speed already. But from that moment, I got super slow. And I don't think I will ever be able to pick up the speed again. So just like really freaking slow, and it was just so nice.
That actually sounds pretty amazing. And what a way just to make the best of that situation and that complete mindset that you were
Yeah,
talking about and just exploring. Because I'm sure you saw not only going to weddings and being in with family and being, like, as you were saying, forwarded back and forth to everybody, but now you're getting more probably tidbits of information like, "Oh, you should check this out. You should check that out," you know? "Definitely go
exactly.
here,"
Yes,
and really
yeah,
experiencing things.
exactly. Exactly. And there was another couple from Holland who were also stuck on two bikes there. And I found them on Instagram. And we then met up in one of the desert towns. And then together we rode, I think it's about 600 kilometers through the desert on the old Dakar rally tracks. And this is something that I could never have done this alone.
Right.
It's way too dangerous to do that alone. But it was just so cool to have the time to explore that part of the Sahara together with them. It was just like, wow, this is so much more than I had ever expected from this adventure. And new ways of riding for me also to hit the sand for the first time is, oh Jesus, it's so hard.
Night and day from normal riding, for sure. Oh, man. So,
Yes.
what was it like when I'm sure you probably started hearing, like, murmurs like, "Oh, the borders, we're gonna open back up in 3 weeks or 2 weeks or next month," or something. Did that kinda start playing with your mindset too a little bit? Like, "Oh, it's go time," or was it just like, I'm not sure I'm ready to go?"
No, actually not, because what happened was that I think after 5.5 months, they said in 2 weeks, no, maybe it was just 1 week. I got that the border would open. So it was a very short time. And the thing was that when it opened, I needed to leave the next day because my visa was finished. So I couldn't hang out in the southern part of the country. I needed to get closer to the border in order to be able to leave the next day. So that was a little bit of a logistical challenge. And but obviously, I did hope that the southern border to Mauritania would open up, but that was not happening at all. Like actually, all the countries south of Morocco was completely closed. No discussions of opening up whatsoever. So there was never that option for me. I knew I had to come out to Europe, back to Europe, unfortunately, which was the completely wrong direction. But hey, I chose to take off during COVID, so it was just the terms at that time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so when the border opened, I left the next day with the first ferry uh, and came back to Europe. And then I thought, okay, well, if the West Coast is not open for me, maybe I should travel across Europe through the Balkan countries, through Turkey, and then see if eventually the East Coast will open up. Um, so I did that. I spent the whole summer in the Balkan countries. So that's like Montenegro, Croatia, Greece, Bosnia Herzegovina, and all those countries. Absolutely stunning part of Europe. Um, and then that's when I got close to the 1 year leave being, finished. And when I called home and said, I'm going to quit, I'm not going to come home. And then I was just about to cross into Turkey. I was actually looking at the border, and I changed my mind, because a few days before this, Omicron new version of COVID broke out. I don't know if you
Yep.
remember. I think they discovered it in South Africa. The doctors there discovered it, and suddenly the world just started panicking again, for good reason. And borders were closed and flights were canceled and all. And I was like, oh no, not again! If I cross into Turkey now, I'm just going to be stuck there for 6 months. Oh, bloody hell! I want to go to Africa. So, and at that time, I knew that there was a container in Rotterdam, in Holland, getting ready for to go on a ship towards Cape Town, because I had a contact there, and there was 2 overland trucks in this container, and they had space for a motorbike in front. And so I called them, and I was like, can I still make it? Because they were leaving a week later, and I was at the border of Turkey. And so you cannot get further away from Rotterdam than the border of Turkey. And they were like, yeah, come. And then I turned around, and I just, with my little 250, just all the way through Europe on the highway, just, and while I did it, I had to get the carnet de passage, this customs document that normally will take 3 weeks, but I managed to get it in 3 days, and then got the bike there and into the container, and then it went off towards South Africa, and then I flew to South Africa. So I think that was a really good decision, because shortly after I arrived in South Africa, there was a lot of flight cancellations, and a lot suddenly happened because of this new variant of COVID. So yeah. So now suddenly I was in freaking real Black Africa. I hope that's okay to use that word, because that's actually what the Black Africans use.
Yeah.
So they call me white, and I call them black, and they're all happy. But I know in other, like, maybe it's not I don't know if it's a very political incorrect term to use
It's okay here. We keep it
in
real.
our part of the world.
So, if that's what
Right.
the locals call it, then that's totally fine. So
Yeah. Okay.
now you're in South Africa,
Yeah.
revamping. Yeah, right. Mind blowing.
Huh?
So now you're,
Yeah.
now you're at the tip. You can either go left or right, and go up one of the other coasts. So did you really have a plan there? Like, okay, now I'm revamped. I've had time to plan a little bit. I've had an airplane ride. This is where I want to go. Because essentially, from the original, you were kind of just going to swing through there and continue around. So now you're like starting there.
Yeah.
It's like, which way do I go? Flip a coin, and there we are.
Exactly. And I also now had the taste of the slow traveling, and plus I didn't have a time to be home anymore. I had quit my job.
Yeah.
So there was no end of this adventure, except, of course, financial. And so I actually, well, what was really cool was that the week after I arrived in South Africa, there was a Horizons Unlimited meeting south of Johannesburg. And I went there. I did a presentation there. And so now suddenly I had 60 new friends, and they all wanted to invite me home, and they all wanted to tell me the most beautiful parts of South Africa. So I got this excellent intel from these guys. And then I pretty much actually followed the weather, because it was in the rainy time of the year, the rainy season. So, and when it rains there, it freaking rains. So I just went wherever it didn't rain. And then slowly I checked off all these places. And I had 3 months in South Africa. And I was so stressed, because I wanted to see every single place that these guys had told me to go. So, man, I was so stressed out after I was done with South Africa. I was like, oh my God, I need a vacation from this adventure.
Vacation from the vacation.
But it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I mean, it's really a beautiful motorcycle country. They have so many gravel mountain passes and so many beautiful asphalt passes as well. And they have the Sani Pass. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's the, I think it's I'm not sure it's the highest dirt road pass in Africa, probably not. But when you get on the top, there's the highest pub in Africa, and you can get a beer and celebrate that you went up there. And the road is it's pretty tough up there. It's I think it's like 20 switchbacks and very steep. And because the road is in the ravine, it gets washed out every year from the rains. So it was super difficult to ride, but it was very epic. And then on the top is also the border to Lesotho. Lesotho is a small landlocked country that lies within South Africa. A really epic country, like it's like a horse culture country. So very different from all the other countries. But yes, that was really a highlight to do. I was actually a little bit scared. I wasn't sure I was going to do it because I was scared, but I ended up doing it anyways, and I was pretty happy.
That's awesome. The things that scare us and that we do tend to be some of the most epic things that we have memories of. Like, that was rad, and this is why.
Those are the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those are the best. Yeah.
For reals.
Yeah. And then from there, it was just zigzagging my way up through Africa. I went pretty much from East Coast to West Coast. Did so South Africa, Mozambique, Lesotho, Eswatini, Botswana, Namibia, Angola. Went up to Angola, came down again. Went into Zambia, then Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda. Back to Uganda, back to Kenya. And then from there, I shipped to Oman in the Middle East. And what can I say? Africa is just so cool. It's. I was pretty scared for Africa, but I actually found it quite gentle. I don't know. That's just a word that pops into my mind. It was just very friendly, very smiley. And just super friendly everywhere. Very poor, many places. Very desperate, which is just heartbreaking, freaking heartbreaking. But really, and then there's the animals. I mean, imagine you ride through Botswana on a normal highway, and you see 12 elephants on the highway that day.
I would love that.
I mean,
I would absolutely love
and
that.
then you camp in the evening, and elephants walk straight past your tent. What the fuck? I mean, it's just like you cannot even believe it. Or I wake up on this one campground and I see maybe 300. I want to say buffalo. Yeah, it's buffalo in Africa and bison in America. Is that right?
Sure. I think it's vice versa, but it's the same.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. It's just like, what am I even seeing? Is this National Geographic? Or, I mean, this is unreal. But yeah, the animals there are just unbelievable. So that's pretty cool.
Definitely something I would love to see here before I kick the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can recommend.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Africa is definitely, people find it scary, and I don't know why it is like that. I don't know why there's this fear of Africa. I think there's one thing with a lot of people that share their stories on social media today, on YouTube and stuff. Some tend to over dramatize traveling because you want to make a good video, and there needs to be a bit of drama for it to be a good video. But mostly, it's not dramatic. Mostly, it's just normal people everywhere, and I think it's just so exaggerated often, and it's just ridiculous. Honestly, I hate that. So I like to mostly focus on that. Just the world is better than its reputation everywhere.
Same.
and then share the good stories. And then, I mean, I also share the bad stories, because there are bad days. There are idiots out there. There are assholes, and I will share that too. But mostly also kind of the drama. For example, I crossed from Mauritania to Senegal in a canoe this winter, and it was dramatic for me doing it because I was scared. But I also freaking decided to do it that way. I could have just gone 300 kilometers up the road and crossed on over a bridge like everybody else. So, it's sometimes a little bit interesting that we go on these adventures and then we make it so dangerous and we dramatize and because we need to make a YouTube video. And I think that's bullshit. And it's not fair to the people in these countries. And I'm not hinting towards someone specific here.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone thinks that I now am talking about Norley Ichibut, I'm actually not. This is not my intention, because I can imagine that some people would think that I mean her. I wasn't thinking of her. I think actually many others do it. But yeah, it's just my point is that no, just go travel, go to fucking Africa. It is so nice. And everybody come back and say, oh my God, people are just lovely there. So yeah.
I love that. Right. So, because one of my questions that I thought about like asking you was like, I should ask, like, in all of her travels, has there been a situation to where like the spider senses were tingling? Like you're like, ooh, this is not a good situation all of a sudden, this, whether it's
Absolutely.
something,
Yeah.
very pressing violent wise, or just maybe a guy just coming on a little bit too much, I don't know.
Yes.
But that was definitely a question that I wanted to ask.
Yeah. All of that has been there for sure. And you gotta get yourself out of there as quick as possible. And I think the worst situation for me was when I crossed Iraq. When you cross from Jordan to Baghdad, you will get military escort through the desert there. And it's like 560 kilometers of military escort. And they drive so slow. There was this one Humvee, it was doing 27 kilometers an hour. Ugh. And it was so scorching hot in this sun. It was summer in the Middle East, and I was just dying. And so we didn't make it all the way to Baghdad, those 560 kilometers, because of that slow speed. And then I ended up having to spend the night in this military camp in the middle of nowhere, just me alone with this group of soldiers. And I felt very unsafe, and especially because the sergeant was coming onto me really badly. And I think it would be similar to, like, let's say tomorrow you end up in jail for whatever reason, and then there is a roommate in the cell that you're in, and he's like, hey cutie, you wanna, like, and he's very tall and very strong, and now he's coming on to you. It's like, no, don't do that there, like, that's not the place and the time for that. That just makes you very, very unsafe. And I don't think I was unsafe, but I was so scared. I was dead scared, and I slept in this old ambulance because they didn't want me to pitch my tent, and he wanted me to sleep in his room, and we had to discuss that for a long time, and it was really bad. But again, I think I don't think I was in danger that night, but I was super scared. So that night I wasn't able to distinguish those two things, and I couldn't control my emotions. Then I was in other situations where I really had to get out of there quickly. There was in Angola, there was a drunk police officer on his day off. He was drunk, yeah, and he was behaving really badly, and I had to get out of there quickly. And that could have escalated into something bad. But again, nothing happened. So I don't know if it was ever dangerous, but I'm very good with now, at least I've learned to be extremely good with saying no very clearly, but also not to escalate things, but take myself away. I don't stay in it. I don't stay to be polite. I will not stay with the family if I feel that it's unsafe with the father of the family or something. I will leave. I will go. So I'm not so scared to be rude anymore, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. If needed, in order to protect myself. So yeah, it's just a way to survive, I guess, out there. So I can switch really quickly from being super polite to being very almost rude, and just like scream and pointing straight in your face and say no in every language that I know, in order to be sure that you heard it and you understood it, and that everybody around also heard it and understood it, and then take myself out of there. And that's not something I like to behave like that, but I just I need to be able to pull out that gun, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. It's a necessity, and I think we all
Yeah,
have that internal alarm in us, like, oh, this isn't good. And mm, I like the fact that
yeah,
you're not afraid to be loud for other people to hear, because now that just brings out
yeah,
a whole new set of people like, oh, I heard that too. I heard that too. Right. So,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's
exactly.
very smart.
So one example, I was walking down the street in Jordan, in this city. It was the national day. They were all celebrating. It had been a wonderful party, and it was just like the best day. And now it was pretty late, and I was walking down the streets alone in the dark. And this guy starts following me. And then I thought, ah, I'm just going to be that crazy woman. So I just turned around and started screaming. And then he was like, "Whoa, okay, I'm gonna take another one of that crazy lady." So yeah, that's a pretty good strategy. Just out crazy them.
Okay. I think that's a t-shirt that you should start making. Just out crazy 'em.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's good. I mean, if you
And
have a small handful of uncomfortable situations, but you have this plethora of just a full sack of just amazing people who take you in and stuff. I think that's a good ratio of
yeah,
traveling, especially, I mean, again,
it's a
going into like some of the countries that you've gone into and, running into the Middle East and Iraq and stuff. I mean, that I question myself just as an American and like, a white American or whatever. It's pretty obvious what I am if I was over there. And I just worry with the history of the states and, us over there doing things, I just wonder if
they would love you. They would love you. A lot of them were very happy to get rid of Saddam Hussein.
yeah.
Very happy, and they don't see you as a person as the bad guy. And they just want normal. They want growth. They want peace. They want business. They want to do good in life. They want education. And if you come as an American, they will be like, yeah, let me show you my country. And they, maybe not everybody, but that doesn't matter. You don't need to speak to everybody. Those who
Well
don't like
said.
you, they're not going to speak to you.
Yeah.
But the other ones will, be so welcoming. There was a really nice American who just went through um, Iraq and had the same great experience.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Maybe I just need to go. Maybe I'll do the TET
yeah,
and go across, right? And just keep on going.
that's a great idea. Great
I'm
idea.
gonna have actually
Just
I'm gonna
keep on
put that in my
going.
notepad right here and then circle it. There we
Yeah,
go.
Iraq.
Yeah. Just wanna know. I'm gonna start doing some recon on all that
Yeah.
stuff. Absolutely rad. Nice. Well, man, we literally just hit the 3-hour mark. Like,
No,
it's
no, I'm so
oh,
sorry.
no,
I
it's
I
awesome.
kind of felt it when we. Oh, I kind of felt it when we went into the Africa adventure. I was like almost saying like, should we stop and then do like another episode, because this is gonna be too much for people. They have fallen asleep by now. But yeah, maybe they can just do some cooking or something
Right,
while they
right.
listen, or cleaning,
Well, the
whatever.
beautiful thing is I have a lot of people who will say, like, I have two people that will message me. The haters, "They're too long, dude. What are you thinking?" Right? But I'm doing this because this is what I want, because I wanna get to know you, right? So if I have a list of 10 questions and I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna have 45 minutes and a hard stop." I mean, we're gonna miss out on so much, right? Even if you come back
Yeah,
multiple times, we would just, like, say 3 or 4 episodes to get to kind of where we are now, right? And then you lose the flow
yeah,
and everything. And then I have the other people
yeah,
who are like, "I love it." I will I'll drop them on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock, and they're like, in my commute to work, I listen. I'll listen a little bit while I'm at work, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm zoning out a little bit," so I stop, or I was mowing the lawn, or this
yeah,
one dude will always tell me, "I was mowing the field, and I like listening." I'm like, "Awesome." So I like the long stuff and the long form, and the fact that you alluded
yeah,
to, "Hey, you wanna come back?" I would love it for you to come back and just talk more about Africa or your upcoming adventures, or anything, you know? It's a awesome conversation. I'm really enjoying it. I'm looking here, it's like 3 hours, 4 minutes, and 52 seconds right now, and I'm just like, "Let's keep going."
that's
I
crazy.
know, it goes so quick.
But it is also two very big adventures that we are talking about.
Yeah.
It's like the first one was 40,000 kilometers through 16 countries.
Mhm.
And the next one ended up being 100,000 kilometers through 45 countries. So it is also just two very, very big. And that took almost 4 years in total. So, it's hard to do this in a short way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does take time.
There's still a lot of stuff I still wanna get to, like, we didn't even get to YouTube and why you're doing YouTube, and, like, how do you like editing? Where
Yeah.
did you learn editing and all this stuff?
Uh, I'm not really doing YouTube anymore, to be honest. I liked it. I like it when I'm traveling and I have time. But when I'm home, I'm so busy
Yeah.
just making a living. And now I am. I actually call myself a professional adventurer now. I do speaking events. So I have created like presentations with video and music and photos, of course, and I tell the story. So the one of them is 3 years in Africa and Middle East. That's one evening, and I think I've done maybe 50 speaking events now or something, and then. And then the other one, I actually have premiere on that one. Is going to be Alaska to Argentina, because I've never told the story about the Alaska to Argentina at a speaking event. So I'm finally doing it, and it's so cool because I'm revisiting all the photos, all the videos, and stuff from back then. And I have the first booking on the 15th of May for that event. So that's gonna be so cool.
I'm super
So
excited
yeah,
for it.
and this is so fun. And to it's magical because I feel that the adventure is still living when I'm home, because I get to show them and show these videos and with the music. And now when I travel, I bring my cameras and my drone as well. So I have all this epic, beautiful footage that I show. And these evenings I can show stuff that I've never shown on YouTube. So it's really magical for me to be able to do this. So yeah, it's ended up being pretty cool that I, after the Africa adventure, I did not come back and have to go to the office the week after. I'm just doing these road shows with the presentations. And yeah, I don't even, I have to pinch myself, like, how on earth did I make this happen?
This
It's
I think
fantastic.
that's a great way to just take your passion and you just made it, your income, and getting paid to do all these
Yeah,
events. I freaking love it, and so inspiring,
yeah,
for a lot of people. 'Cause, you've alluded to the financial aspect of these trips where you're like, "Ooh, if I wanna do this, I have to save for 3 years," and stuff. And I think that is a hidden thing that people don't talk about who go on these long epic trips. Um, some people just rack up their credit cards until they can't do it anymore, and then they gotta go home with all the debt. Other people are like yourself, you have this budget and this money that's already there. There's so many different ways, but that's just a part of the conversation that never in at least in my experiences, never really gets talked about. So I think it's
Yeah,
good that not only you brought that up, but you also kinda talked about, forward thinking about parts and tires and, border crossings and stuff, because I think people like yourself inspire so many people out there to kinda live their own adventure, whether it's international travel like what you're doing or, weekend warriors. They just wanna get out and have an adventure for, X amount of days, but I think these kind of conversations with people like yourself is really important, especially to kind of, roll the carpet back a little bit and see all the other things that people just sweep under there, and forget about. And like, it's awesome because
yeah.
this, and this, and this, but no, there's a lot more logistics into it. There's a lot of forward thinking.
And it's all exactly what you say. But it's also another thing I want to mention is that because a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you're just living the dream," and I do agree. But when you are on the road, you're not necessarily more happy than you are back home. I think whatever emotions you that live in you. Some people are always just freaking happy and other people are always freaking depressed or, whatever. This is who you are. These are the emotions. They are going to come with you also to Angola and Colombia. And if you quickly get annoyed by everything, you're going to get quickly annoyed also in South Africa. If you don't really like to be social, you're going to be the same back there. If you're a super boring person, you're going to be a super boring person also out there. So we are who we are. And of course, we can go out there, but it's not going to change our DNA. So happiness is right here. That's inside. That's you are in control of your emotions and how you choose to deal. Are you going to be super annoyed, upset because you have a puncture? Are you going to have fun and do some funny photos and laugh with the local toothless old guy who wants to sell you whatever? Are you going to make that a great? Are you going to hate all the Central American border crossings? Or are you going to freaking love them? It's up to you, 100%. So I think that that's really important to think that no, happiness is not on that uh, epic dream ride. Happiness is it's right here, right now, every second. And also, it doesn't have to be such a honestly, an adventure can just be Tuesday night in the tent in the garden. That's a freaking awesome tent. Take your kids, go set up the tent, turn off the TV, make a campfire instead, and roast some sausages or whatever. That's a freaking adventure. And a big adventure is just many of those next to each other. So like because I feel also sometimes when people like me who do these very long, very expensive, very big, that it almost kind of deters people from like, oh my god, I can never live up to that. I can just do 3 weeks. Ah, 3 weeks is freaking amazing. So yeah, I hope I get my point across.
Well, I think you nailed that point across for sure. Absolutely. And I kind of chuckled when you were saying, if you're boring in real life, and it's just like, I don't think I could ever be that person, just being boring. I am too much of a goofball. And I'm just like, I like to laugh and giggle and stuff and make other people laugh. So it's like at a border crossing, I have a
That's
really hard
cool.
time of like, this is very serious, but man, you just threw out a softball to like make a funny joke. Which way do I go here? And dad jokes. The dumber the jokes, the funnier I find them for sure. And I have a
Or
really bad tattoo right here of flames, right? It's horrible, but every time I go somewhere and they're like, we don't allow firearms in this facility, I'm like, how about this one?
oh Oh, that's so
Right.
funny.
It's horrible, but it
Oh
just
my
makes me
God.
giggle.
I love that. Yeah. I do that's what she said jokes
Oh my gosh. For real. I am
all the
oh,
time. It's horrible.
it's they're softballs too. And then, like, when you say it, it's like some people just like, "Yeah, of course you said that. Of course you said that." It's like, "Why wouldn't I?"
Exactly. I mean, in a situation with a puncture, that's what she said is going to come up a lot.
Oh, yes. 100%. I totally get that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
And I love that you're enthralled, or you just have this passion for your tools too, because I'm kind of the same way, you know. Oh, and a little tidbit of advice: if you're new and you're thinking about doing some sort of adventure, even if it's like an overnighter, and you're starting to get tools or whatever, and you're going to work on your bike, use your tool bag for your bike that you take on your adventures. Because if you're going to change the oil, you're going to do something
100%.
with the chain or whatever, just use tools and then put them right back on your bike. Because then you're like, oh, I need this. Didn't even think about that. Boom, add it to your kit.
Yes. This is really brilliant advice. It will not only ensure that you have the right tools, it will also ensure that you don't bring tools you don't need, because you're going to know every bolt on your bike and you're going to know if that is in your tool set. So yeah, I don't carry anything that I don't need.
Yep.
For sure. It's really, really good
The bare
advice.
minimums. Just enough to, I think,
Yeah.
get the bike fixed to get it somewhere, unless you blow your transmission in South America, but that's different.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, with the tools that I have, I can do pretty much all service, but I can't fix like major stuff. So I mean, and that's okay. You're not going to do that on the side of the road, anyways.
Right. You're not
So
gonna need a
yeah.
torque wrench to torque things down, right? Leave those things
Yeah.
behind, you know?
Exactly.
I think I could do
Yeah.
most things, but if we're gonna talk about internal engine work, then no way. Absolutely. I got a toe strap
No. No.
by Ladle Sport ADV. There's another shout out to one of my buddies, Matt. He gave me a couple toe straps. So worst case scenario, I can just see if somebody can tow me somewhere in neutral.
Yeah. That's great. I always carry that as well. And yeah, it's cool. And I love having the tools. I don't know how many times I've fixed other people's bikes or local people's bikes. A lot of the Africans, they ride these boda, so which is like a small 125cc bike, Indian bike. And they don't have, even if it's like they're living, they are transporting people and stuff around, and you'll see like 5 grown men on one little bike. It's unbelievable. Uh, then they don't have the tools for fixing a puncture. And so I don't know how many times I've helped the locals do that. And that's so nice to be able to. And that's another thing, because I feel when you travel, everybody help you. I always get help from everybody. And it's so nice to be able to help someone back. So just to give the karma back a
Oh,
little bit.
absolutely. I absolutely love that. So, well, I think this is probably 3 hours and 16 minutes is probably a pretty good place to shut her down here for maybe episode 1 of you. You know, I'm sure that we could revisit this
My God.
100%,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
but
let's see what your listeners are saying. Maybe they're like, no more of that lady. Oh my goodness, that was
yeah,
painful.
I doubt that very much so. So I do lives, and, I kinda wanted to keep you under wraps a little bit and be like, I don't really announce my guests. I just drop an episode, right? And so I don't really say anything, but I did a live last week, last Friday. We're just sitting there chit chatting, and was it on the live or was it on the Patreon? It actually was on the Patreon. After my live, I call it the Pancake Speakeasy. So for all the Patreon members, and it's just for them, and I give them an opportunity for this program. You know, hey, if you want to join, click the link and come on, just like how you and I are talking right now. And I I was like, I don't know if I should say, but here's what I'm doing. So on May next month, um, I'm actually doing the women of the moto world. Like, I just want to just have some rad women who just are epic people, you know. And so you're going to be kind of the main event, I guess, if you will. That you'll come out the last Monday of May. I don't know what the date is. It's around on my calendar somewhere, but you'll be dropped the last Monday of May at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or daylight time now.
Oh, wow.
So
Oh, I'm
I was
honored. That's
yeah, so
amazing.
I just
Thank
wanted to have
you.
this all go, and then I was telling some of the Patreons about that, and it was just got some pretty stellar remarks for it and stuff, and everybody's like, "Dude, she is awesome. Oh my gosh, yeah." So I was like, "Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding
No, not
me?
at all."
Oh, wow. That's
And
incredible.
you got
You know, it's quite humbling. You because we are all just people,
yeah,
right? And we don't think of ourselves. I don't think that I have done anything particular, but I actually get a lot of people who write me and they're just like, oh, just so you know, what you've done has inspired me to finally head out on my first adventure. I know it's only to Italy, but it's such a big thing for me. And I'm like, oh, really? Oh my God, that's
yeah,
amazing. Or yeah, it's just, and it's way more than I thought. I never had a purpose of, you know, inspiring people, or I just wanted to explore the world because it was my passion. But I'm just so grateful that this is what's happening, and that people find it interesting to follow my adventures. It's nice. And because you write solo, it's freaking nice that someone that I can share my posts and videos with people, because it's, you know, like when I'm out there seeing something awesome, I can't share it with anyone, so I'm alone. So it's really nice to have these people following me. I enjoy that, and it's such nice people. I only get very positive stuff, comments on social media in general. So yeah, I consider my social media like total drama free area.
same, same. I have, one hater that likes
Yeah.
to hate on my stuff, and I love it because he's trying to be kind of a jerk, right? But there's some really good constructive criticism in it too, you know? He's like
Oh,
and it's funny because he
cool.
watches all the videos, and he'll be very specific. "You're so stupid, but at, 19 minutes and 2 seconds, you're just rambling about nothing," and so I go back and listen to it, and I'm like, "Well, maybe a little bit, like, I get it, maybe I can add some more facts or something to it." So I actually am taking it quite literally, but then I'm also, "Thanks for the watch hours, bro." You're clearly watching my stuff.
Exactly. And it's also like, yeah, are you gonna do a podcast and not ramble at any point?
Right?
Of course you are gonna ramble at some point. I mean, yeah, it's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
It's I'm human.
right, and, I don't know, and like I said, the beautiful thing about this and the conversation that we just had is I don't have an agenda, I don't have a list, I introduce you, and it's just like, "Alright, let's go." Because we went off on a couple different tangents here and there together, right? You don't get those with the cookie cutters, So I love this how
Right.
we can just talk and just be human and interact together. And it's just like you and I, it would be no different you and I right here, or if you and I were like, say, at dinner together, sitting across from a table, just talking while we were having some beers or drinks or food or whatever. So I love this kind of format.
Or at that campfire in the in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be rad. So, I think with that, we'll
Right,
go
yeah.
ahead and,
When
we'll stop it, and, like I said, maybe I think we're both alluding to, like, a part 2. So, whenever that happens, keep your eyes out, kids, and, I guess since this
oh,
is the end of the, Women of the Moto World series for the first one, thanks for listening to it all. I am so grateful for you coming on the show and being so gracious and just a rad lady with a great channel and great just life experiences, and I love that you're on here just speaking your mind and using the big words and just being you. I'm glad and very thankful for that, so thank you very much.
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah. And my last words will be, remember everybody, the world is way better than its reputation.
I think that's
That's
perfect,
it.
and with that, so long, everybody. Click, click.